Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Present, Ben, at the Continental Divide trailhead. Jim had just asked me about my rifle, which isn't totally legal, so I reply, Jim, I would rather you didn't ask me about it. I'll admit to shock when he smiles and says, I figured you would say something like that. Listen, you're going to get into trouble carrying that on the Continental Divide trail unless I take care of it for you. I have no idea what he is planning, so I ask, just how do you plan to take care of it? He laughs and explains, how about I make you a deputy sheriff, which would then allow you to carry that rifle? Shit, I have never considered being a lawman. I'm not sure about it, so I continue. Jim, are you sure this is the only way, and does this cause any problems for you? He smiles at me and replies, well, there are other ways, but you would have to wait around until the paperwork came back. Hell, it's easier for me to hire you as my only SWAT member, which will let you carry that or any other rifle or weapons you want to carry. I'm not sure about this, so I continue to ask, Jim, you know I am headed up the Continental Divide Trail. What will happen when I cross into Wyoming and the other states? Jim smiles again at me and answers, Ben, don't worry. I will take care of you by calling the other sheriff offices and letting them know you're going to be entering their jurisdiction. Hell, I will even tell them you are pursuing a suspect who is wanted for questioning in Lake County. This sounds too good to be true, so I ask, who is this suspect? He looks at me and asks, didn't I hear that you had some problems out at the cabin with a scumsucker named Mike Murphy, who commanded a full company of special forces from Fort Carson? Even though Jim and I go all the way back to high school, he is the sheriff of Lake County and seems to know much more about what was going on than he originally implied, so I carefully word my reply. Yeah, I had a little run-in with that scumsucker. Jim let loose with his belly laugh, which I hadn't heard since high school, and lays it on pretty thick. Ben, I may be the sheriff, but I still remember how you saved my butt in high school, and that friendship still means more to me than this job. Hell, the whole county knows you handed that scumsucker and most of the special forces their butts, and they are damn proud of you. It pissed all of us off when the scumsucker came in and declared martial law. In fact, it was a full-time job keeping the old-timers in the county from running up there with their deer rifles and getting killed. This is shocking, so I reply, hell, Jim, I had no idea. He interrupts me. Yeah, we all know you didn't have any idea. You know how independent we are up here. Once word got out that the government from the East Coast came in and declared martial law on your place, most of us were ready to go to war. Hell, I had to keep a deputy on station at the road to your cabin to keep turning the crazies back to town. The only way we could keep them happy was to supply them with daily reports of how you kicked their butts. So, how about it? You ready to be my only SWAT member? Jim finally convinces me. I nod my head and say, sure, why the hell not? So how do we do this? He produces a letter and gives me my instructions. Sign on the 2 places with the red arrows, then raise your right hand, and I will swear you in. I read the paper, because I don't sign anything without reading it, and noticed that it's backdated a few weeks, so I ask, hell, Jim, how long have you had this drawn up? He smiles at me and replies, since I found out you were back, and we discovered what was going on at your cabin. We needed to make sure you were covered for the armaments you were sure to be using. It's good to have a friend in high places. I smile, sign the paper, raise my right hand. Jim swears me in, hands me a copy of the document and a badge. He says, you should probably keep that badge on while you're on the trail, and if you come across any other officers of the law or forest rangers on the trail, cut them some slack, because we don't need any incidents. I salute him and say, yes, sir. He scowls at me, then I come up with another idea. Hey, Jim, since you did this for me, how about doing the same for a couple of my friends that are still at the cabin? He thinks for a moment and asks, don't tell me the girlfriend you jilted and the old fart that was your spotter. I sure as hell didn't like him talking to me about Yentz that way because of what I did for her, but I also didn't want to offend him, so I ignore the comment and answer, yeah, those 2 and any others that they deem necessary. He grins and says, you know that's a great idea, especially if we fix the date for them like we did for you. I can use it to really raise some hell with the federal government for letting Mike Murphy come here and do what he did. Did you know he talked the feds into letting him declare martial law because he convinced them your girlfriend assembled a private army on American soil? I can tell the feds that she was a deputy and what she did was sanctioned training authorized by my office. If we do this, I think we can assure this will never happen again. I pin the badge on my tactical vest, shake Jim's hand, and say, Jim, thanks so much for this. It's been fun and reminds me of the 2 of us in high school. But daylight is burning and I need to get going. He hands me a business card and says, Ben, if you have any problems at all, just have them give me a call. I get ready to leave and ask Jim one more question. Hey, Jim, has anyone reported seeing a wolf in the area? Jim looks at me and answers, Ben, you know there haven't been any wolves here for years. I sure as hell don't like that answer and begin to think on it as I grab my pack out of the back of his truck. I sling it over my back and take off down the Continental Divide Trail. I smile as I realize that Jim might say he is still my friend, but he sure played me like the smart sheriff he has become. The scumsucker knew most of what went on at the cabin, but didn't let me know until he was damn ready to. I began to think about it and tried to analyze his motives for wanting to make me a deputy and a SWAT member, and I'm positive there is more going on behind the scenes than he mentioned. Present, Jens, Maria, and Liz at the cabin. We're almost to the medical plane, and I prepare to ask Maria a question, when there's a hell of an explosion that rocks the ground. I about jump off the gurney because I worry it might be the thing Mike put in my chest. But I notice I'm still alive, so I guess it wasn't me. Then I look at Maria and ask, what the hell was that? She says, the hell if I know, but it sounds like it came from the porta potty. I finally ask Maria my question along with an order. Maria, if this is a bomb inside of me, we're going to need someone with ordnance disposal experience to remove it. Please check on what the explosion was and find out if we have anyone with the experience we need. Maria asks, Jens, who is going to get you into the medical plane? I smile at her and explain my thoughts. Maria, if this is a bomb inside of me, the last place I want to be is inside the medical plane. I look at Liz and ask, Liz, can you wheel the gurney away from everyone and everything and also find me a hat to wear because the sun is starting to bother me? Maria answers, shit Jens, I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Let me go find out what the explosion was and see if I can find someone with ordnance disposal training to remove whatever the hell it is from you. Liz agrees, sure Jens, the ground is smoother here and I can easily move you away from everyone. Then I will see about finding you a hat. I smile because my plan is working great. Present, Maria, at the cabin. It's not hard to see where the explosion came from because there's a hell of a mushroom cloud over the area. However, I'm sure it wasn't nuclear, otherwise we wouldn't be here right now, but the shape of the cloud is an indication that it was one hell of a blast. I jog toward the mushroom cloud, get close, and then stop when I see Tom and another woman. Present, Tom, Maria, and Inga, back at what used to be the porta potty. We are almost to the mobile kitchen trailer where we plan to appropriate a piece of plastic to put between the porta potty bomb contacts. The ground shakes. There's a hell of an explosion. We look at each other and Inga says, oh no, Byron. We turn around and run back toward the porta potty, but there's nothing left except for tiny little pieces of plastic and what looks to be small pieces of flesh. Inga drops to her knees and wails, Byron, what did you do? I am in shock. I just can't believe the old fart is gone. Hell, Byron always seemed like he was a cat and had 9 lives, so I figured I would be the first to go. I sink to my knees beside Inga and Hell's bells. I can't stop the tears from running out of my eyes. Inga sees my tears and we hug each other. I swear, what the hell went wrong? Inga says, Tom, I am so sorry. It should have been me, not your best friend Byron. I hold her tight as she sobs and comfort her. Inga, don't go getting crazy on me. It must have been Byron's time to go. Maria runs up and says, was that the porta potty and was anyone injured? I look at her and give up the bad news. Yes, it was. Byron was in it, and we can only assume the blast killed him. Maria looks at us and says, Tom, I'm sorry this happened to Byron. He was a hell of a man. I extricate myself from Inga, stand up and say, it's that scumsucker Mike's fault. I'm going to make it my life mission to find him and kill him. Maria looks around and states, Tom, right now we might have other problems. I shake my head and ask, what the hell is wrong now? Maria starts her explanation. I don't blame Tom for being pissed off. Byron was a hell of an asset, and from what I had seen, Tom's best, and possibly, only friend. The incident with the porta potty makes me even more concerned for my princess boss. I need to find someone to take a look at the thing in her chest. I could do it, but I would prefer to have someone that has more skill with explosives than me. Tom wonders what else is wrong, so I tell him, Tom, the scumsucker, Mike, left us another present before he left. The scumsucker had someone implant something in Jennifer's chest at the site where I put her chest tube. I was concerned it might be a bomb, and after this I'm even more concerned. With Jack being down, I am wondering if you know of anyone that's a bomb disposal expert. The woman who was with Tom, who I don't know, stands up and says, it should have been me that died in the porta potty explosion, not Byron. I had a bad feeling about leaving him in the porta potty, but everything looked fine when we left. I am angry and wondering what in Hades happened. The woman talking to Tom says Jennifer might have a bomb inside of her, and she is looking for a bomb disposal expert. This might be a chance for me to redeem myself. I wipe the tears out of my eyes, stand up, look at her and say, I have had extensive training in bomb disarmament and would love the chance to help. The woman asks an insulting question. If you were the bomb expert, then what the hell was Byron doing in the porta potty? I look down at the ground, get ready to answer when Tom interrupts, Since you weren't here, Maria, you have no idea what happened. Inga disarmed 2 of the 3 triggering devices on the bomb and kept the 3rd one from detonating with her own hand. Byron volunteered to take her place so we could head to the kitchen trailer to devise a way to permanently disable the bomb. He must have done something wrong which caused the bomb to detonate. I have worked with Inga, and hell, she's even saved my life several times. You need to back the hell down because she is your best bet on saving Jennifer. The woman, who I now know as Maria, looks at me and apologizes. Sorry about that. It's just that I don't want anything to happen to my princess boss. I am a little confused and question, your boss is Jennifer, and she is a princess? Maria laughs and says, not really, but many times she acts like one, so that's my pet name for her. Now, let's get you over to her so you can see if you can figure out what the hell they put inside her. I look at Tom, and he says, Inga, I know you can do this. I'm staying here to see about getting this mess cleaned up. I wish that I had the faith in myself that Tom has in me. Present, Jens and Liz, at the cabin. Liz wheels the gurney out into the middle of nowhere, looks at me and asks, is this good, Jens? It's perfect, so I tell her. Yeah, this is great. You think you can find me a hat to wear? The sun is starting to burn me? Liz smiles and asks, are you sure you will be okay here by yourself? I give her a dirty look and order, Liz, of course I will be fine by myself. Now get your butt out of here and get me a damn hat. She complains, damn Jens, you sure have gotten bitchy. Then she leaves to find me a hat. When she's far enough away, it's time to implement my plan. I take my arm out of the stupid hospital gown to expose the thing in my chest, pull back my covers, and begin to open the surgery kit that I acquired. I'm going to take the thing out of me if it's the last thing I do. I take a deep breath and begin to cut the stitches over the piece of shit. It hurts like hell, but there's no way I'm stopping now. Present, Maria and Inga, heading to Jens. I'm not so sure about letting this woman work on my princess boss. If she is as good as Tom says she is, then Byron wouldn't be dead. I figure I can watch her like a hawk, and if I see anything I don't like, I will kick her, but out of the way and take over. We approach the medical plane. I see Liz and ask, what are you doing here? I thought you were taking care of Jens. Liz answers, I am. I moved her away from everyone like she wanted, and now I'm going to find her a hat, because she's getting sunburnt. I get ready to read her the riot act for leaving my princess boss alone when there's another explosion. Liz looks at me and says, Maria, that's from the direction where I left Jens. I run past her toward the sound of the explosion and threaten, if anything happened to Jens, I'm going to kill you. It shocks me when both Liz and Inga pass me, and Liz answers, Maria, if anything did happen to Jens, you won't have to kill me, because I will die. Present, Stacy, going after Ben. I still can't find Ben on this POS GPS unit, but I do know where his friend is. She is still in the same place up the Continental Divide Trail, and I figure she must know where Ben is going, so I keep patches in her canter and head towards Ben's friend. I finally notice I'm attracting a hellacious amount of attention in Leadville. I originally thought this is a one-horse town, but I'm beginning to believe it's a no-horse town. Doh. I realize it's not the horses they are looking at, it's Wojciech. Shit, I didn't think about that. Great. Now I'm concerned that some stupid idiot will start shooting at us. I start to breathe easier when we begin to exit the town. Then a truck pulls across the road in front of us while a hand reaches out of the driver's window and puts a red light on top of the truck. Then a man with a badge on his coat steps out of the truck. I rein in patches while Bo and Wojciech stop beside me as he asks, Ms., exactly what are you doing taking your bear through my town and scaring the public? Present, Destiny, waiting for Ben. I wake up from my nap with a start. I could swear someone is watching me, so I check the area, but do not find anyone. However, the feeling remains, and with it I cannot go back to sleep. I decide to slip deeper into the forest, change back into my human form, and wait beside the trail for Ben. I finish my transformation, however the feeling of being watched still does not depart. Present, Samantha, Masha, and Ivan, at the medical plane with Jack. I am amazed as Masha and even Ivan begin to pray. First they cross themselves in the wrong, for Catholics, direction, then they begin to recite the same words in Russian. Masha says, and Ivan repeats almost the same phrase except for the last word. They are interrupted a couple times by explosions which shake the medical plane, but then continue with their prayers. It sounds like some sort of rosary, so I interrupt and ask, Masha, I would like to pray with you, but I don't speak Russian and I do not understand the words you are saying. She smiles at me and apologizes. My apologies, Samantha. Russian is our native language, and it is just natural for us to pray in Russian. The prayer we are praying is called the Jesus Prayer in the English language. Being Orthodox, we cannot assume we know how to pray for a person, so we pray for God to have mercy on the person we are praying for. I continue to ask, you and Ivan prayed the same thing until the last word. You used something that sounded like Jack, and Ivan used a different word that sounded like Papa. Masha continues her smile and says, That is correct, Samantha. I prayed for Jack, my husband, and of course Ivan prayed for Papa. She looks at Ivan and says, son, we need to do the prayer in English so Ms. Stevens can understand and pray with us. They pray, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on Jack. Ivan says, Papa. I sort of like this idea, so I join them the second time, and Ivan smiles at me. We're interrupted when Tom comes into the medical plane. He looks like he lost his best friend as he sits down in a chair and holds his head in his hand. I can't be sure, but it looks like he's crying. I look at Masha and say, Masha, please excuse me, but I think Tom needs some help. She answers, yes, Samantha. Do not worry, since we are positive Jack will recover. I move over by Tom, kneel to get on his level, and ask, present, Samantha and Tom, at the medical plane. I kneel so I can be on Tom's level, realize that he is crying, touch his arm and ask, Tom, what's wrong? He wipes his eyes and swears, that old fool. I have no idea what he's talking about, so I ask, Tom, who are you talking about? He glares at me and answers, I'm talking about Byron. The old fool got his butt blown up. All that's left of him is. Tom shakes his head and stops talking. It's obvious to me he's in shock, so I stand up, hug Tom, and motion to a doctor. The doctor comes over, and I mouth shock. The doctor nods his head, takes Tom by the arm, and leads him away. I decide it's about time I become a reporter again. I wave to Masha and leave the plane to see what the explosions were. Present, Alexei, Ira, and Todd, heading to the cabin. I cannot believe what I am seeing. There is a constabulary car, without the constable, behind a taxicab. And departing from the scene is my sister Mira, running on the edge of the road, dragging her luggage behind her. Todd pulls adjacent to her on the road. I lower the window and ask, my sister Mira, what has transpired? She smiles at us and reports, thank divinity, you have arrived. I had a slight altercation with the local constabulary. Todd gives her a concerned look and signs, Mira, please tell me you did not kill him. Mira stops, puts both hands on her innominate bones and declares, Todd, sometimes you react like a totally dysfunctional male. I certainly did not eliminate him. I merely rendered him slightly inoperative and relocated him to the aft compartment of his vehicle. She continues with a command to me, Alexei, assist me with relocating my luggage to the aft compartment of your vehicle. I exit the vehicle. Todd opens the trunk. I lift Myra's luggage and gently place it in the trunk, making sure not to crush my luggage. I request a change of tasks. Todd, I would enjoy relieving you of the driving duties. Todd signs his agreement, exits the driver's seat, which I promptly acquire. Mira acquires the aft seat, looks at the car and states, Alexei, you have borrowed an excellent vehicle. I inform her, Mira, I did not acquire this vehicle. Then Ira excitedly interrupts, yes, my sister Mira, Alexei did not illegally borrow this vehicle. Todd legally borrowed this vehicle with a magic card called a credit card. My sisters continue the discussion about the credit card while I am distracted by the need to enter the address of Ben's cabin into the onboard GPS. I finish entering the address, then the GPS says, proceed 1.5 miles on the current road, then take the entrance ramp for Interstate 25 North. Despite being totally engrossed in a discussion of the nature of credit cards, I am shocked at the unknown voice emanating from within our vehicle. In considerable alarm, I question, Alexei, who in Hades is that, and where in Hades are they concealing themselves in this vehicle? Alexei laughs and answers, Ira, do not worry. That was the computerized GPS system giving us directions to Ben's cabin. I smile at Mira and state, see Mira, Todd has used his magic card to acquire a most excellent vehicle for us. This vehicle even knows the direction to Ben's cabin. Then Mira ungratefully complains, Ira, Todd may have provided an excellent vehicle for us. However, there is a major problem with the velocity at which this vehicle locomotivates. I explain to Mira, my sister, Todd only borrowed this vehicle, and we must return it in the same condition as we received it. Therefore, Alexei cannot drive this vehicle as if he borrowed it. Then Todd wonderfully signs. I try to explain to Mira that we cannot destroy this vehicle, but like her sister and brother, she has no concept of renting a car. I sign, yes, Mira, we cannot destroy this vehicle, otherwise we will be forced to recompense the owner for any damage. I am shocked when Mira answers, do not worry, I will recompense for any damage to the vehicle. She then slaps Alexei on the back of the head and orders, Alexei, either locomotivate this vehicle at a greater speed or relinquish the operator's seat to my corporeal self. Alexei looks at me and I sign where Mira cannot see, speed up some Alexei, but do not drive it like you stole it. He smiles, floors it, and I wonder what in the hell I've gotten myself into. Present, Zarika and Yasmin, in juvenile detention. Ms. Hornahog shows up today and asks me, Zarika, are you ready to talk to me? I smile at her and ask the question I have been waiting to ask. No, Ms. Hornahog. However, I wonder if you like your job because soon you will lose it. She glares at me and threatens. It's not nice to threaten me. You and Yasmin have committed some very serious crimes, and soon you will have your day in court. I grin at her and explain, I do not think that will happen, Ms. Hornahog, since Yasmin and I have diplomatic immunity. I see shock cloud her face. Then she says, I highly doubt that. I continue with my grin and say, if you do not believe me, perhaps you will believe our mother when she arrives in court with our diplomatic passports. Ms. Hornahog turns and says as she leaves, well, we will just see about this. Yes, during all the time I had to think about things, I remembered that Mira had provided diplomatic passports for us that listed us as her daughters. Now I needed to decide on a way to contact Mira. Ms. Hornhead comes into my cell, sees the drawing I made of her, stops and sputters. Yasmin, what can you tell me about your and Zarika's mother? I am a little confused because she thinks that Zarika and I have the same mother. Then I understand why she would think that, so I play with her. What would you like to know about our mother? She asks, is she some sort of politician? I smile and answer, I am not sure. You will need to ask her when she brings our diplomatic passports so we can be released. Ms. Hornhead storms out of the room. I jump up and clap because I can tell Zarika has found a way for us to be released. Flashback, Ben, leaving Moscow. I was having a hell of a dream about. No, that was not right since it was a hell of a nightmare. Jack the old fart decided to retire from the Marines. He ended up sitting around the house on his butt getting fat, harassing everyone on the computer, including me, and basically pissing off Masha until she was ready to leave him. Worst of all, I was stuck without a spotter. Then I heard a funny noise, began to wake up and realized it was the wolf whining. I snapped awake, quickly grabbed my AK from the gun rack on the passenger side of my, watched as she took off like her tail was on fire, and realized she warned me because I had human company. Yeah, a large and noisy flatbed, KAMAZ, a big Russian truck, was driving toward me. I was not sure who the hell it was, but I was not going to wait around in my, like a sitting duck to see. I opened the driver's door, stepped out with the AK held in a high ready position, and waved. The stopped a respectful distance away from my, then two old as hell men got out of the truck and glared at me. Then the driver shook his fist and complained, what are you doing at our quarry? Are you the Durak? Rhymes with Barak and means fool. Who destroyed our gate? Shit, I guess this quarry wasn't as abandoned as I thought it was. I slowly lowered the AK and apologized. Yes, I destroyed the gate, and I am sorry, but I thought the quarry was abandoned. I will pay for fixing the gate. The passenger appeared less angry as he asked, what are you doing here? I thought for a quick moment and decided it couldn't hurt telling them the truth, so I answered, I am on a mission, had driven all night, and was tired and hungry. So I made a meal and took a nap. And now, if you don't mind, I would like to use your quarry to sight in my rifle before going after the Chechen scumsuckers who attacked the school in Beslan, North Ossetia. When I mentioned the Chechen scumsuckers, both the old men turned their heads to the side and spat on the ground in disgust. It was a bit cold, so I leaned my AK against the, reached inside, grabbed my jacket, and put it on. Then I picked up my AK, all while keeping an eye on the two of them. The minute my jacket was on, they looked at each other and began to whisper. I sure as hell didn't like it, so I brought the AK back up to ready position. They both noticed the movement of the AK, held up their hands in surrender, and the driver said, do not worry about the gate. It is an honor having you here, sir. Is there any way in which we could help you? I looked down and noticed the Russian field jacket had a smaller version of the ribbon bar that was on my other uniform. Damn, Russian uniforms revealed too much information. I also realized they saw the mystery medals Yuri gave me and reacted like all the guards at the many checkpoints I passed through on my way here. Yeah, again with the sir. I wasn't sure which was worse, being a captain and all the sir bullshit or the medals. No, after only a little thought, I decided the medals were certainly the worst. It renewed my resolve to kick Yuri's, but when, or if I ever got back to Moscow. They continued whispering to each other, and the driver again asked, Sir, is there any way in which we could help you? It was time for me to fish or cut bait, to trust these two old men, or to just kick their butts. I felt bad about the gate anyway, so I said, I damaged your gate, so of course I will pay for fixing it. Just let me sight in my rifle, and then I will stop interfering with you and be on my way. I proved my trust in them when I slung the AK over my shoulder, turned my back on them, and walked to the back of my. I opened it up, slid out the big wooden crate, which was heavy as hell, and strained a bit as I sat it on the ground. I noticed the two of them had come around the back of my, but not so close as to be a threat. The passenger said to the driver, Look, Sergey, at the markings on that wooden crate. That is a PTRD 41, a bolt-action anti-tank rifle firing the potent 14.5 mmx 114mm cartridge. I haven't seen one of those since the Great Patriotic War. Sergey, at least I knew the driver's name, replied, Yes, I remember you firing one at the German panzers. I looked at them and realized I was lucky as hell to run into them in the middle of nowhere, and it was a good thing I didn't kick their butts. I stood up, smiled, and asked, "So you two were in the Great Patriotic War? And did one of you use a PTRD like this one?" Sergei replied, "Yes, SIR. My friend Oleg and I fought the German scumsuckers during the siege of Leningrad. Oleg was an expert with the PTRD while I helped to carry the ammunition. However, we are not heroes like you are. It was the damn rank and medals again. I needed to nip this in the bud, so I said, please, I am just a soldier like you two were. I am Captain Anatoly Andreev Alexandrov. Please call me Anatoly Andreev. And Oleg, since you are an expert on the PTRD, would you like to help me with it, because I have never fired one?" I knew I had done a great thing when Oleg smiled at me and answered, "Yes, sir. It would be a great honor to help you with the intricacies of the PTRD. Would you mind if I removed her from the box?" I stepped back, motioned toward the wooden crate with my hands, and said, "Be my guest." I saw a few tears in Oleg's eyes as he reverently walked up to the wooden box that contained the PTRD, laid his hand on it, turned, looked at Sergei, smiled, and said, "Sergei, I never dreamed I would ever have this honor again. And to be allowed this honor by a great warrior of Russia means even more. I was tired of this hero worship bullshit, so I ordered Sergei and Oleg attention. I was impressed that despite all these years after being in the Great Patriotic War, they both snapped to the best attention they could, given their advancing age. I looked at them attempting to stand at attention, and it sort of scared me. Hell, neither one of them could stand straight, even though they both tried their best. Just watching them made my back ache, and I wondered if I would be able to even stand when or if I reached their ages. I addressed them, "Comrades, please do not insult me further with the hero worship. Both of you fought in the Great Patriotic War in one of the most brutal sieges in the history of mankind, and are heroes in your own right. Now as you were." I could tell that my words had the effect I wanted on them when Sergei reached inside his coat, produced a bottle of vodka, and suggested, "Perhaps we should all drink as comrades." He handed me the bottle. I unscrewed the cap, took one small drink, and said, "Okay, but only one because I have work to do." Oleg had taken the PTRD out of the wooden crate and was admiring it. It was a thing of beauty. He racked the bolt, checked the barrel, and remarked, "She has never been fired. How were you able to discover a virgin PTRD?" Sergei took a drink from the bottle, handed it to Oleg, and answered, "Oleg, you insult the comrade captain by asking that question." Oleg set the PTRD on the wooden crate and apologized. "Yes, Sergei, you are correct. Please forgive me, comrade captain." Then he took a hell of a slug from the bottle. I gently reminded him, "Oleg, do not become too intoxicated, otherwise you cannot show me the intricacies of the PTRD." Sergei snorted and answered, "Comrade captain, during the siege of Leningrad we lived on vodka, moldy bread, and rats." Oleg interrupted, "But mostly vodka. It was so damn cold it was all that kept us from freezing. Thank God the German scumsuckers didn't have vodka, or they might have taken Leningrad." Sergei added, "Oleg, you old liar. You know the women helped to keep us from freezing too." Oleg laughed and agreed, "Yes, comrades, those were the good days." Oleg took another big drink of the vodka, handed it to Sergei, who took a big drink. Then I said, "Okay, Oleg, let's get to work on the PTRD." Oleg began to manipulate the PTRD with the finesse that only years of use and intimate knowledge of the rifle would bring. He dry-fired it a couple times, looked at me, and suggested, "Comrade captain, the trigger on this weapon is really terrible, and I would love to fix it for you, but I do not have my tools in the truck." He handed the rifle to me. I dry-fired it and agreed, "Yes, the trigger is abysmal. How are you proposing we fix it?" Oleg offered, "Comrade captain, if you would come back to my house, I could fix the trigger for you today, and then we could come here tomorrow, and I can teach you all about this beauty." I knew the offer was not made lightly, and I also knew to reject the offer to come to his house would be a huge insult. I carefully considered the offer and answered, "Oleg, I would be honored to come to your house while you fix the trigger on the PTRD." A huge smile crossed his face. He tried to stand at attention again and saluted me. I returned the salute, and he began putting the PTRD back into the wooden crate. Sergei motioned to me. We took a few steps away from Oleg. When we were out of earshot, Sergei looked down, shook his head, and confided, "Comrade captain, you do not understand the honor you have given my good friend. Unfortunately, he does not have much time left above ground." Sergei looked at me. I could see the tears in his eyes for his friend, so I asked, "What problem does he have?" Oleg answered, "The cancer got him, and there's nothing left the doctors can do. So he came back here to live out his remaining days in peace with his friends and family." I understood the feeling and hoped that someday I would have friends and family to grow old and die with. I noticed Oleg was finished, but he tried to lift the wooden crate and couldn't, so I came over and suggested, "Comrade, let me get that for you." He moved over. I lifted the wooden crate and slid it back into place. I picked my stove up off the ground because it was now cool, packed it away, closed up the back of my, and suggested, perhaps Oleg would like to drive my, while we follow you, Sergey. Oleg questioned, Comrade Captain, are you sure about this? I laughed and threatened, don't force me to make it an order. I climbed into the passenger seat, stowed my AK in the gun rack as Oleg started my, and we followed Sergey through the gate. I looked at the time, knew that Yuri would be done for the day, so I pulled out my mobile phone and gave him a call. Flashback, Major M, at his hotel. Hell's bells. That was the last thing I expected, but I sure as hell hoped for something like this. The interview with Victoria started with her flirting the hell out of me, and the next thing I knew the vodka came out, the clothes ended up on the floor, and we ended up in bed. I was already tired from the trip, and after our lovemaking session, I was totally drained. There was a knock on the door, so I started to get up and answer it, but Victoria ordered, Major, do not bother yourself. I will dismiss whomever is at the door. She got out of bed while I ogled her beautiful body until she covered it with the blanket off the bed. She slinked to the door like a cat stalking its prey, turned to make sure I was watching her, let the blanket slip some to show me her lovely butt and giggled like a schoolgirl. She covered her assets again, walked the rest of the way to the door, answered it, but I couldn't tell what she said. However, I could tell by the tone of her voice she was giving them hell. She walked back toward the bed and I asked, who was that? She smiled at me and answered, Major, that was another woman who wanted to be your translator, but I made sure she knew I was already your only interpreter. You must be careful, my Major, because many women will be coming out of their crevices offering to be your translator. She dropped the blanket, sat on top of me, and pretended to scold me. She lightly slapped my face as she said, however, Major, I am your only translator, and I do not want you to forget that. I was ready for another go at it, but we just got going when there was another knock on the door. Victoria said something that I was certain was a swear word, jumped up from our bed, covered herself again with the blanket, and went to the door. She opened it, and then I heard a hell of an argument between Victoria and a man. I grabbed the sheet, covered myself, jumped up from the bed and dashed toward the door, but it was already over. Victoria hauled my big bag into the room, and I said, damn, that bellhop found my bag. How much do I owe him? Victoria smiled at me and answered, my Major, you are like a child in my Russia and are very naive. The bellhop was the individual responsible for your bag being stolen. Unfortunately, it is a very common practice. I informed the man who took your bag and worked with the bellhop that if anything else of yours was taken, I had a friend in the FSB who would look into the matter. Now you should ascertain that none of the contents were pilfered. I asked, but what about what we were doing when he came? Victoria giggled and answered, my Major, we have all night for that now, please inspect your bag. I opened my bag, and it was a mess. I was sure the scumsuckers had dumped the contents on a bed and looked through everything. Victoria saw what a mess my bag was, spanked me on the butt, and scolded me. My Major, we must teach you how to pack your clothes properly so they do not wrinkle. I spanked her butt and countered, Victoria, my bag was packed fine, but the scumsuckers messed it all up. She spanked my butt even harder and said, well, my Major, we must put your clothes away. Do not worry if any of them are wrinkled, since I will iron them. Now you go rest on the bed and restore your energy for later. She winked at me. I understood what she said, went to the bed and watched her put most of my clothes in the dresser, some on the floor, all while she was nude. She teased the hell out of me with my underwear by pretending to model it. By the time she was done, I was certainly ready for her again. Flashback, Jack and Masha, at Masha's flat. After the training day from hell, the only way I made it up the stairs to Masha's apartment was fortifying myself with some of the vodka Yuri gave me. I knocked on the door. Masha flung open the door, took one look at me, and gave me a hell of a hug. I complained, Masha, please don't. I sweat like a pig today, and I will get you dirty. Masha hugged me even tighter and said, my Jack, I do not care how you smell. What I care about is how you feel. Please tell me, do you have any injuries? I shook my head and answered, no injuries, other than those to my pride. Masha pulled back, looked into my eyes, and asked, Jack, I do not understand. How did the Spetsnaz break your pride? I will go with you tomorrow and kick Yuri's rear. I kissed Masha on the lips to silence her, walked into the apartment, smelled something wonderful cooking, and explained, Masha, injuring someone's pride is a figurative term. Hell, Masha, I thought I was in pretty good shape, but today's training proved to me how old and fat I've become. Masha scolded me. Jack, you are not old. You are just not used to the conditioning methods of the Spetsnaz. Now sit at the table since I made a big meal for you. I smiled at her and asked, you didn't make me a salad tonight? How did you know? I took back some of my bad thoughts about Tatiana when Masha told me. I was very happy that I listened to Tatiana's instruction about tonight. My Jack looked and smelled terrible. I was not sure what tortures the Spetsnaz did to my fiancé, but they had to be very intense. I hoped when I told Jack how I knew to cook him a big meal tonight, he would lose some of the animosity toward Tatiana. So I informed him, Jack, Tatiana told me about the information Ben gave her on how the Spetsnaz treated him and suggested that you would need a very large meal tonight. I just hope I made enough food for you. Jack smiled at me, took another drink from the bottle of vodka he carried, and answered, I guess I owe Tatiana one because I'm hungry enough to eat a horse. I was shocked by what Jack said and replied, Jack, my love, I'm sorry, but I did not cook horse for you tonight. Jack interrupted me with his wonderful laugh. Masha, that also is an expression, one to tell you how hungry I am. While I have probably had horse meat in the past, I certainly do not want any of it tonight. I giggled and said, Jack, that is a good thing to know because I am not sure I could find horse meat in Moscow. Please sit at the table and I will bring you your food. Flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. I finally arrived at my flat, opened the door, walked in and put my large purse on the table. I walked over to the divan and sadly sat down. I could not remember a time I had ever felt so alone and lonely. Ben was gone and Masha would be busy taking care of Jack, so I could not call her. I walked back to the table, pulled the scrubs that Ben had worn out of my big bag, put them up to my nose, and enjoyed the smell Ben left on them. I wandered into my bedroom, lay on the bed, and flashback, Jennifer, at the military hospital. The pain from my burns was worse than ever tonight. Not only did they hurt, but they also itched unbearably. My night nurse said I had already taken my prescribed pain medication and had to wait 2 more agonizing hours. Sleep was impossible. Desperate for relief, I shifted in bed, discovering that wiggling helped, until it didn't. The itching returned, and as I moved again, something caught. A sharp pain shot through my back. I sat up, realizing I had torn something. Then I saw the blood on my bed. I pressed the call button. No response. I reached back. My scrubs were wet. My hand came away bloody. I hit the call button again, repeatedly. Still nothing. Frustrated, I got up to find help. As I moved, warm liquid ran down my leg, more blood. Grabbing my bedsheet, I wrapped it tightly around my back and marched to the nurse's station, ready to demand answers. But when I arrived, the station was empty. Then I noticed the light board on the back wall. My room number was flashing. The place was totally empty, and it made me feel really creepy, like I was in some sort of a hospital horror movie, and my imagination started to go crazy. I kept looking everywhere because I figured the hospital zombie that had already killed and devoured the nurses would jump out from somewhere and attack me next. Then a buzzer went off and scared me so badly I jumped about 10 feet. I looked at a board on the back wall of the nurse's station, and another light lit up. I hadn't explored this floor as much as I wanted to because when I tried, the nurses always gave me problems. I decided I would wander down to the room that just rang their call button and see what was going on. I walked up to the closed door, knocked on it, and a male voice complained, "When the hell am I going to get something for pain?" I answered through the closed door, "I'm not the nurse and I don't know where she is." There was a huge crash and the person began to swear. "That bitch told me she'd be here 30 minutes ago with my shot. Now she can clean up the shit from the bedpan that I just threw at the door." He was certainly more upset than I was, and I didn't want any of it, so I said, "I'm going back to the nurse's station to see if she's back." I started to walk toward the nurse's station when something really bad happened. Flashback, Alexei at home. I couldn't believe it. Mother just hit me with a rolled-up magazine for pulling on Chowmine's tail. In response, I dashed into my room, hid under my bed and growled at her. Then Mother kneeled down, looked under the bed, shook the rolled-up magazine at me and demanded, "Alexei, get out here and take your punishment for hurting Chowmine." I came up with a great idea, so I slid out from under the bed, stood there, and Mother began beating me with the rolled-up magazine. I mustered as much shock in my voice as I could and questioned, "Mother, what terrible act did I perform to incite you to strike me?" Mother stopped hitting me with the rolled-up magazine and demanded, "Alexei, you do not remember pulling Chowmine's tail?" I gave Mother my best "I don't believe you" look and said, "Mother, have you lost your mind? You know I would never do that to Chowmine. So please tell me the truth as to why you beat me. I need to know so I will never perform such an act again." Mother looked flummoxed and answered, "Alexei, do you not remember acting like a dog?" I gave her my best skeptical look and answered, "Mother, why would I act like a dog when I am your son? I must tell the psychologist about your behavior tomorrow. Perhaps he can uncover why you beat me today." Mother gave me a concerned look and asked, "Alexei, perhaps we could keep this between us?" I vigorously shook my head and answered, "I am sorry, Mother. But since you cannot inform me what action I performed to precipitate your violent response, I must divulge the situation to the psychologist. I know he will interrogate you until he discovers the truth." Mother dropped the rolled-up magazine on the floor and ran from my room. I took one look at the rolled-up magazine and knew what I was going to do next. Flashback, Ira and Mira, in Israel. Mira had terminated the game of Sherlock Holmes in a huff with the idle threat of consuming Aminthus. However, I had not had sufficient time in the role of Sherlock Holmes to nourish my ego. Akam the obese commented, "Thank God. It is about time that the foolishness of Sherlock Holmes has departed my house." I oculated him and stated, "Not so fast, Dr. Watson." The new Dr. Watson sputtered, "Ira, now wait a minute." I picked up the BB gun of retribution, aimed it at his bulbous self, and presented him a choice: become Dr. Watson and assist in my endeavors, or face retribution. Dr. Watson relents. "Ira, I relent. Please do not shoot me again." I glared at him and questioned, "How did you address me?" He raised his hands in surrender and answered, "Excuse me, Sherlock. What is our first mission?" I smiled and stated, "Dr. Watson, we must meet with the imposter who claimed to be my sister to ascertain why she terminated the game. Here, you take the BB gun of retribution." I placed the BB gun of retribution in Dr. Watson's care, and we hastened after the imposter who swore to be my sister. I shed my Sherlock Holmes accoutrements, and I was finally free of the fictional character which my sister Ira used to harass my corporeal self. Let her see if she could pretend to be Sherlock Holmes without a Dr. Watson. I was relaxing by the pool of swimming in Akam's house and contemplated how we needed to terminate our mission in Israel and depart. My solitude was interrupted when I heard, "Dr. Watson, we have discovered the imposter who claims to be my sibling." I oculated Ira and was shocked to see she had enlisted the help of Akam the obese to perform the role of Dr. Watson. I yawned, glared at them and remarked, "I grew tired of this foolishness and no longer care to participate in this silly game." Ira commanded and answered, "Dr. Watson, do not be deceived by this charlatan. Make sure to keep her covered with the BB gun of retribution." Imposter, perhaps it was because your portrayal of Sherlock Holmes was inferior? I did not care for Akam pointing the BB gun of retribution at my corporeal self, so I countered, "Akam, cease and desist in pointing the BB gun of retribution at my corporeal self." Ira countered, "Dr. Watson, do not abide in this witch's conversation." I glared at Ira and questioned, "What vile nomenclature did you just use to refer to my august self?" Ira ordered, "Dr. Watson, fire your weapon." Akam hesitated, which was all I needed. I jumped to the side and covered the distance between us before he could cock the BB gun of retribution again. My speed startled both of them, so I snatched the BB gun of retribution from Akam's trembling hands, flipped it around, cocked it, and fired at Ira, striking her in the side. Ira screamed, "Be quick about it, Dr. Watson. We must escape." They both ran from the room, and I gave pursuit. I was amazed by the speed of Akam. While in hot pursuit, I cocked the BB gun of retribution and shot Akam in his massive derriere. He screamed, grabbed my sister Ira, and pulled back on her. As she fell to the floor, I cocked the BB gun of retribution again and shot her again. Then I fell upon her to deliver the beating she richly deserved. We were both shocked at the person who terminated our conflagration. Flashback, Todd, on the island. With the masked men and Chinese soldiers being gone, the days on the island fell into a routine. Lou and I would hunt, and she worked with me to improve my bow skills and my woodcraft while Lynn minded the camp. Then Lynn and I would practice both ASL and JSL. Of course, both women wanted some time alone with me, which I didn't mind in the least. Everything was going smoothly until one day when present, Ben, at the Continental Divide trailhead. It was good to talk to Jim again, and he was right. I did save his butt in high school when I took the blame for his thermite bomb. Jim had discovered the formula for thermite in a chemistry book in the library, so naturally we made a shitload of it, and we messed around with it after school for weeks. It was incredible what it could burn up, and believe you me, we burn up a ton of shit with it. However, I need to explain why and what Jim did. He had won the right to play on the varsity basketball team, but the damn coach wouldn't let him play on the varsity team because he didn't have the $70 it took to purchase the stupid special Converse basketball shoes the team had to wear. All he had were the standard black Converse basketball shoes, so the coach put him on the third string. We were pissed off at the coach and the school, so one night Jim and I broke into the school gymnasium. Hell, it wasn't hard, since we just left a window unlocked and came back later at night. Jim set a huge thermite bomb in the middle of the basketball court, right on the school logo. Then we lit the fuse and ran like hell. We didn't know until we showed up for school the next morning, but Jim was a little too generous with the amount of thermite we used because not only did it burn a hole in the wood floor, it kept right on going through the concrete and rebar. There was supposed to be a game the next day, but not only did the basketball team have to forfeit the game, they had to close school for a week to clean out all the smoke damage, and all the rest of the games the team played that season had to be away games. Sternvern, the principal, of course, blamed me, mostly because I got blamed for everything bad that happened at the school. Remember what happened between my dad and Sternvern? I don't know why, but this time I didn't fight it, but I also didn't confess. Everyone was sure I did it. The sheriff at the time was so convinced he even put me in jail overnight to try to break me. But I was exonerated and released the next day because someone put a thermite bomb on the top of Sternvern's car, which was parked in front of his house, while I was in jail. Thanks, Sheriff, for the great alibi. A couple of days later, I saw what was left of the car, and it was by far the most incredible thing we ever used the thermite on. Not only did it burn through the roof of the car, it set the interior of the car on fire and continued burning right through the bottom of the car. The most amazing thing was when it reached the drive shaft that ran from the engine in the front of the car to the rear wheels. The drive shaft overheated and exploded with such a force it flipped the car over. I was sure it was Jim, but we never talked about it. However, we did end our thermite experiments. I still questioned what Jim's motive was for pushing so hard to make me a deputy. Oh well, if he was right, and it kept me from getting in trouble with this rifle, it would probably be worth it. I finally hit the Continental Divide Trail, headed north, and took off at a nice easy trot. Present, Liz, Inga, and Maria, heading to Jens on the gurney. I encounter Maria and another woman as I am headed to find a hat for Jen. Maria begins to give me the full load about leaving Jens alone, but it only makes me want to kick her, but again for being such a pain in the butt. But for right now, I resist the urge. I begin to take them back to Jens, so the new woman can take whatever the hell it is out of Jens. Then there's an explosion from Jens' direction. We all take off running towards Jens, and as we pass Maria, she threatens, "If anything happened to Jens, I'm going to kill you." I can't believe Maria. She runs like an old woman. As I pass Maria, I answer, "Maria, if something did happen to Jens, you won't have to kill me because I will just die." I look over at the other woman who's easily keeping up with me and ask, "Who the hell are you?" She smiles at me and answers. I cannot believe how slowly Maria runs. It must be because of her size, since she is not the most svelte woman I've seen. The woman I am running with, who must be a good friend of Jennifer, asks me who I am, so I reply, "My name is Inga. I work with Tom, and I am a good friend of Masha." I was going to take a look at the device in Jennifer. "Since you know my name, please tell me your name." She answers, "I am Elizabeth Morgan, but you can call me Liz." I reply, "I thought you looked familiar. You are the reporter for the Truth Network." She smiles at me and corrects my assumption. "Actually, I am one of the owners of the Truth Network." Then she exclaims, "Shit, look at what has happened." I look and see big hole in the ground and an empty gurney on its side. Liz yells, "Jens." Present, Jens, at the cabin. My plan worked almost perfectly. I got the bomb. Yes, the scumsucker Mike had someone put a bomb inside of me, out of my chest, but it must have had some sort of anti-tamper mechanism. The instant I had it out of me, it started whining and vibrating, so I threw it as far as I could, but it wasn't quite far enough. When the damn bomb detonated, it blew me off the gurney and into a patch of prickly pear cactus. I knew better than to try to get out of the cactus because every movement just caused more of the spines to attack me. I tried my best to relax because I knew the explosion would bring the troops running. It wasn't long until I heard Liz frantically yell, "Jens." I call out, "Liz, I'm over here and need some help." Liz and the other woman that Tom told me was Inga run up, and I order, "Help to get my butt out of this cactus." Liz questions, "Jens, what in the hell happened?" I can't believe they aren't helping me first, so I complain, "I'll tell you as you get me out of this damn cactus." Liz and Inga take my arms when Maria runs up and scolds me. "Jens, what the hell did you do?" I've had my fill of the questions, so I bitch, "Get my butt out of this damn patch of cactus, and I will tell you." Maria grabs my feet. Liz and Inga are each on one arm. They pick me up and move me out of the cactus. Maria continues with her complaints. "Jens, your side is bleeding again. What the hell did you do?" I smile at them and sass, "Dioich, of course my side is bleeding. I had to cut the sticks to get the bomb out of me." Inga says, "Jennifer, you were very lucky it didn't immediately detonate and kill you." I smile, look at all of them, and explain the reality of the bomb. "No, I'm not, since Mike didn't want to kill me. He wanted to send me a message." Liz questions, "What message is that?" I reply, "He wanted to tell me that he could have killed me while I was a prisoner any time that he wanted to. However, he made a huge mistake." It's Maria's turn, so she asks, "What mistake is that?" I glare at them and answer, "His actions have pissed me off." Maria places me face down on the gurney, after Inga puts it back on its wheels, and begins to pull the cactus spines out of me. Then Maria covers me back up as some guys I haven't seen for a long time run up. Present, Stacy, going after Ben. I get stopped on the road by the local sheriff, and he asks, "Ms., exactly what are you doing taking your bear through my town and scaring the public?" I smile at the sheriff and counter, "He's not my bear." The sheriff continues with his questions. "Well, he's traveling with you. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, he's your bear." I continue to smile and answer, "Excuse me, sir, do you know who I am?" He grins and surprises me with the answer, "Yes, I do, since it's my job to know strangers in my county." You are Stacy Summers, and you are trying to find Ben Blaine. I wonder if he was the one that helped Ben with the vehicle, so I ask. Yes, I am. Now could you help me? Do you know Ben's location? High answer shocks me. Miss Summers, you have a larger problem than finding Ben Blaine. The state of Colorado has ordinances against keeping wild animals, like your bear, as a pet. We need to take you back to my station to answer the charges. I begin to complain, but sir, as I said before, Wojciech is not mine. He interrupts. Sorry, if you know his name, it's just further proof that the bear is your pet. Now please have your bear get in the back of my truck, tie your horses off to the tailgate, and take the passenger's seat. I cannot believe it. I've never been treated like this before, but I know better than to keep fighting to dig my present hole deeper. However, I do covertly pull out my mobile phone, place a call, and slip it back into the pocket on my tactical vest. Next, I order Wojciech, get into the truck. Then the crazy bear gets me into real trouble. Present, Samantha, in search of news. I leave the medical plane and immediately see a large cloud. It must be from one of the explosions. I head in that direction, get close, and see the Marines picking tiny little things from the ground. I turn on my video glasses, walk up, and ask, "What are all of you doing?" One of the Marines says, "Please be careful where you step, miss. We are picking up the pieces that are left from the explosion that killed Byron." I look down at the ground and see what appear to be small pieces of flesh and fight to keep from vomiting. I question the man that gave me the sad information. What happened? The Marine replies, "We don't really know, miss. All we know is he was in the porta potty when the bomb that Mike left for us detonated. All that's left are the green pieces of the porta potty and the small pieces of Byron." Then he scares me some when he continues, "However, do not think that Mike is going to get away with this. We've already put the word out to Marines all over the world. Wherever he is a dead man walking. This is a sad story, and I'm not sure I want to broadcast it, because I sure don't want to warn Mike. So I ask, do you know where the second explosion came from?" The Marine points and says, "Somewhere in that direction. However, I would be very careful walking around here, as that scumsucker probably has left more bombs around." I take the Marine's advice and carefully begin to walk in the direction the Marine indicated when my phone rings. I answer it, and at first I'm not sure what I'm hearing. Then I figure it out. Present, Destiny, waiting for Ben. Ben has not arrived yet, and I still do not like the feeling that I'm being watched. I decide to do something about it, so I take the Continental Divide Trail south toward Ben. The feeling of being watched follows me, and I hope that when I meet up with Ben, he will be able to help me discover who is watching us. Present, Masha and Ivan, at the medical plane with Jack. The nice person, Samantha, leaves because she is a news reporter and must do her job. Ivan and I continue to pray for Jack, and then he awakens, sees us, and says, "Masha, before you get angry with me." He is too late because I am already very angry with him. However, I also know my husband. Berating him is not as effective as kissing him, so I silence his words with a big kiss. Ivan says, "Goody, Papa, wake up." Ivan's timely outburst alerts the doctors and nurses. They rush over. I pull away and Jack continues, "Masha, I am sorry as heck that I didn't listen to you." I smile at him and know that once again I was correct to not berate him. I feel like hell, and it's not just from the porta potty that exploded while I was in it. Yeah, I hurt some from that, but what's worse is how that scared Masha. I can tell from the instant I wake up and saw her that she'd been crying. Shit, that was the last thing she needed in her condition. I make a vow to myself to not do anything else crazy during the remainder of her pregnancy. The doctors and nurses come over and I ask, "So how am I doing?" One of the doctors says, "Much better than your friend Byron." I question, "Why, what happened to him?" The doctor continues, "I hate to tell you this, but the porta potty you were injured in exploded with him in it, and he is gone." I cannot believe it. Look to Masha for confirmation. She begins to cry, shakes her head, and present, Tom, at the cabin. I need to fix my head, so I leave the medical plane, begin to walk and look around at the mountains. Well, if Byron had to die, he sure couldn't pick a nicer place for it to happen. It's beautiful here. I saw the Marines picking up pieces of Byron and know they will never get all of them, so a little bit of Byron will always be here. In all, a very fitting place for my old friend to meet his maker. I continue walking, not really knowing where I'm going. When, what the hell? There's a scruffy-looking dog with a fox. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for dogs, so I stop walking, give a whistle. The dog stops, looks at me, and I whistle again. The dog begins to head toward me, however the fox wants nothing to do with me, so it takes off running in the other direction. The dog is friendly as hell toward me, and he's jumping up and down like we're long-lost friends, so I pet him on his head. He reminds me of Byron and what I've lost. I move over to a nice Douglas fir, park my butt under it. The dog puts its head in my lap. I begin to pet the dog, and present, Todd, Ira, Mira, and Alexei, heading to the cabin. Once I'm sure that Alexei isn't going to seriously mess up the rental car by driving it like he stole it, I decide it's time to take care of something that has been bothering the hell out of me. I turn in the front seat so the girls can see me, and I sign. All three of you are extremely preoccupied with your luggage. Mira immediately and almost caustically replies, "Why should that concern you?" Ira quickly punches Mira in the arm. I wonder if it will elicit a war between them, but thank God Mira seems to ignore it. Ira answers, "Todd, I am embarrassed to answer your question." I smile at her and sign, "Then don't worry about it. I don't need to know." Mira again caustically replies, "Todd, you might not believe this, but we have never owned such nice accoutrements as were given to us at the Broadmoor Hotel." Ira interrupts, "Mira, please, this is embarrassing." Mira sticks out her tongue at Ira and continues, "Todd, as I was explaining before my sister so rudely interrupted, we have never owned such nice accoutrements." Alexei interrupts, "Or such nice luggage in which to carry the accoutrements." Mira slaps Alexei on the back of the head and orders, "Concentrate on your driving." Then she continues, "In the past, any nice accoutrements such as these were, of necessity, borrowed." Alexei again interrupts, "Like this borrowed car." This elicits another smack from Mira to the back of his head. Then Ira whines, "Mira, please cease and desist." Mira continues, "Ira, if you maintain the desire to acquire Todd as your boyfriend, he has the right to know about our entire past." Ira glares at Mira and says, "I will not let you mention such things." Mira teases, "My Ben knows the complete history of our lives, and it has not influenced him negatively. Do you not feel Todd deserves the same information?" Ira raises her fist and threatens, "Mira, I must caution against raising my ire." Mira mimics her by saying, "Ira, I must caution against raising my ire." She laughs and continues, "My sister, you elicit no fear within me." Ira glares at her, slaps the hell out of Mira and laughs, "Then fear this." And the fight between the girls, which has been brewing for days, is on. The problem is they are tearing the hell out of the back of the car. I nudge Alexei and sign, "Pull over so these two can fight outside of the car." He pulls over. However, the girls do not take the opportunity to leave the car. I look at Alexei and he suggests, "We should physically remove them from the vehicle." We both exit the car, open the rear doors, reach in and grab the girls. We pull them out of the car and keep them from hitting us, and then something terrible happens. Present, Zarika and Yasmin, in juvenile detention. The problem is, how can we inform Mira that we are being held in this prison? Unlike adults, we have not even been given one phone call. And even if we are allowed the one phone call, I do not know Myra's phone number or the phone number at the cabin. Then I come up with a new plan which might work for me. However, I have no way of letting Yasmin know of my decision. I am happy that Zarika has figured out a way to get us released. However, I have no idea how she will inform Mira of our location. I sit back on my bed and think about the problem. Then I come up with a great idea, look through my things and find that I still have it. Flashback, Ben, leaving Moscow. We were headed to Oleg's house so he could use his tools to fix the trigger on the PTRD. It was a slow trip because we were behind Sergey in the Kamaz. Oleg was driving so I decided to call Yuri because I forgot to ask him something, but while I dialed the call, I thought of a couple more questions. Yuri answered his phone and I first asked, "Yuri, how did Jack do today?" Yuri laughed, answered, and then teased, "Ben, my friend, do not worry. He survived, but he did not excel like you did. However, he will be able to fit into his blue uniform for his wedding. So tell me, comrade, did you like your medals?" Hell's bells, I couldn't complain too much about them, otherwise Oleg would understand what I was talking about, so I answered, "Yuri, you and I will have a serious talk about this if I get back from this mission." He laughed and answered, "Ben, the whole team understands serious talks is your expression for kicking our butts, and that is why we all decided to give you those medals. Believe me, we had to pay very many bribes to get those forged onto your record. So comrade, enjoy them in good health with all the many benefits you will discover go with them." I wasn't getting anywhere on my complaint, so I asked Yuri the question I originally called about. "Yuri, did you get the trust fund set up for the widow and her son like I requested?" He became serious as he answered, "Yes, Ben, we did, and I wanted to thank you for the whole team. You were very generous." The entire team went to the widow's flat and told her the good news. She cried profusely and thanked everyone. I closed the phone call with, "Thank you for taking care of this, Yuri. However, this still does not absolve you from the trick you performed on me." His laughter rang in my ears as I hung up the phone and furthered my resolve to kick everyone's, but when or if I got back. I looked up and was shocked. We were driving into a Gordok, small village, and it appeared the whole damn village turned out. They lined the edge of the street, waved Russian flags, cheered and clapped. I looked over at Oleg and asked, "Oleg, what is this?" Oleg laughed and answered, "Comrade Captain, it is not every day we have such a hero arrive in our little village. Sergey made a call on his cell phone, and we decided to honor you like the hero you are." I was going to read him the riot act, then I saw the look of respect on his face. remembered that he wasn't long for this world, and came up with a great idea. Comrade, the only way I will allow this honor is if we include all the men of the town who were in the Great Patriotic War. Oleg coughed. I caught him as he wiped some blood from his mouth on a handkerchief, then answered, Comrade Captain, Sergei and I are the only ones left. All the others have passed. However, we will be honored to share this occasion with you. He began to wave at the people while I did the same, and I realized two things. First, I was witnessing a dying village. There were very few young people left in this village, and the ones I did see sure as hell didn't look like they wanted to be standing alongside the road. Second, and even worse, the world was slowly losing all the survivors of World War II, the Great Patriotic War, along with their memories and experience. Our two-vehicle parade continued through the Gordok, and we reached the end of the very short main street. The Kamaz stopped, and Oleg said, Excuse me, Comrade Captain, I will return shortly. It almost seemed there was more spring in his step as he walked up to the Kamaz. Sergei opened the door. They began to talk. Oleg returned to my opened the door and requested, Comrade Captain, if you would not mind, we would like for you to ride on the back of our Kamaz as we travel back through our town. I answered, only if you and Sergei will stand on the back of the Kamaz with me. Oleg smiled at me and once again excused himself. Again, Comrade Captain, let me inform Sergei. He attempted to run to the Kamaz, and it made my back ache just watching him. Sergei and Oleg had an animated conversation. I watched as Sergei pulled out his cell phone and made a call. Then Oleg came back and informed me, Comrade Captain, it would be an honor to stand beside you on the Kamaz. We are waiting for my granddaughter Oksana to drive the Kamaz. As we sat around and waited, Oleg pulled out a pack of smokes and gave one to Sergei. They both lit up with matches, and Oleg offered, Cigarette, Comrade Captain? That was one vice I never partook of because I saw what it did to both my mother and dad. So I waved it off and answered, No, comrades, I do not smoke. My back had started to bother me, so I asked, However, since I am not working today, I wouldn't mind a shot or two of your vodka. I no sooner asked than it appeared. I unscrewed the lid, took a big swig and remarked, This is good vodka, but what brand is it? I had to ask because there was no label on the bottle. Oleg smiled and bragged, Comrade Captain, there is no label on the bottle because it is vodka that I made. Out here in the frontier, vodka is very expensive, so we must be prudent and resourceful. I continued by taking another big swig and complimented, This is some of the best vodka I have ever had. You could sell it. He laughed and answered, If I did that, the FSB would visit our little village and ruin what little fun we have. Just as our own personal party got rolling, Oleg's granddaughter arrived. She got out of a car which somehow looked familiar. I blinked my eyes a couple of times and finally realized where I had seen her in the car before. She was the drunken chick from last night who damn near ran me over. It took me a bit to recognize her because she looked totally different. Instead of looking like a cheap 304 in a dress that was too tight and too short, she looked like the girl next door who wore traditional Russian clothing for this area in Russia. She took one look at me, blushed like crazy, and Oleg ordered, Oksana, come and meet our new friend, Comrade Captain Anatoly Andreev Alexandrov. She demurely walked over to me, kissed me on both cheeks, and whispered, Please do not tell my great-grandfather about last night. I smiled at her and whispered, Your secret is safe with me. She saw the bottle in my hand and asked, I could really use a drink since I have a terrible headache. I kept the bottle and answered in a whisper, I would say that you deserve that headache. What the hell did you think you were doing picking up a total stranger on the road? She gave me a wicked smile, suggestively licked her lips and answered, Because you refused my offer, you will never know what I would have done. Oleg finally questioned, Are you two going to talk all day, or are we going to have a parade? Oksana, I answered, Of course we will have your parade. I was just welcoming our hero. I whispered what has become my most frequent curse to her. Shit, don't tell me you're going to start with the hero crap. She giggled and headed to the driver's seat of the Kamaz. I walked to the back of the Kamaz and relatively easily climbed on the back. Oleg and Sergei came over. I gave them my hand and pulled like hell. Shit, they were heavier than I thought, and after I got both of them on the Kamaz, my back felt like shit. I opened the vodka, took a hell of a swig from it, returned it to Oleg. Then he took a drink and passed it to Sergei, who took a big swig. I reached behind me, massaged my back, and Sergei asked, Comrade Captain, what is wrong? I kept up massaging my back and complained, Sergei, it is nothing, just an old wound that sometimes bothers me. Sergei handed me the bottle of vodka and said, Hopefully it is nothing that some more vodka will not cure. I laughed and answered, There are very few things that enough vodka will not cure. I took another big swig and by now was feeling damn good, other than my back, which felt like someone was beating on it with a hammer. Oksana started the Kamaz with a jerk that damn near made all of us fall on our butts. Oleg swore at her like a sailor. She stuck her hand out the window of the Kamaz, waved and apologized. Sorry, I am not used to this clutch. Oleg looked at me, shook his head and sadly said, she's a good girl and came back home to help take care of me after my wife died. But I worry for her, because this is no place for a young, beautiful woman. Sergei laughed and chided, Oleg, do not be so morose. She is here because she loves you, and then sometimes interesting strangers, like our comrade captain, find our little village. Perhaps someday her prince will come. Oleg looked at me, smiled and answered, yes, Sergei, that is true. In fact, perhaps her prince is already here. They both laughed and looked at me like I was the main course in an Oksana dinner. I didn't like where this conversation had headed, so I informed them, Oleg, I am sure Oksana is a wonderful woman. However, I already have a woman in Moscow. Thank God I was saved because we headed back through town and were busy waving at the citizens. We finished the pass through town and Oksana yelled, we need to go to the house so I can finish cooking dinner for our guest. Oleg praised her attributes. Did I mention comrade captain, she is an excellent cook? That reminded me of the bullshit lie that Tatiana and Masha pulled on me. I was still pissed off about it. I didn't respond. Instead, I yelled my request to Oksana. Please take me back to my. She waved out of the driver's window to acknowledge she heard my request, turned the Kamaz around, which took all the road and both the shoulders, and took me through the cheering villagers back to my again. I hopped out of the Kamaz while she came around and helped me get Oleg and Sergei off the back of the Kamaz. I was damn thankful for her help because helping them off the back of the Kamaz was almost as bad as helping them up. By the time I was finished, my back was thoroughly screwed up, and unfortunately, I had finished off all the vodka. I reached back and tried my best to massage it, but Oleg saw me and offered, comrade captain, if you are lucky, after dinner Oksana might give you a massage. She is very good with her hands. I replied, sorry Oleg, after dinner I think I just want to get some sleep. I headed to my. Oksana followed me and I asked, what do you think you were doing? I was shocked with her reply, but that was just the beginning. Flashback, Major M, at his hotel. I had never known a woman like Victoria in my life. Hell, if Sergeant Reynolds' fiancée was even half the lover Victoria was, I understood why he wanted to marry her. But the big question I had continued to bother me. If she was even half the lover Victoria was, how in the hell did the old scumsucker keep up with her? I was years younger than him and was exhausted. I said to Victoria, I need to get some sleep tonight because I have work to do tomorrow. She gave me a predatory smile and asked, my Major, what work is more important than what we have been doing? My mind suddenly and unfortunately flashed back to my time in Thule living with the bony bitch, and I answered, work that if I don't accomplish will have me sent far away from here. She gave me a sexy pout and answered, well, my Major, if that is the case, then I suppose you need to get some sleep. But let us see how you feel about sleeping if I do this. I couldn't believe what she did next, and I forgot all about sleep. Flashback, Masha and Jack, at Masha's flat. My Jack barely stayed awake during dinner. In fact, I had to feed him several times to make sure he stayed awake and ate all the food I prepared for him. I definitely owed Tatiana for talking me into making my Jack real food tonight and not a salad. I was happy that we had Victoria taking care of the nasty Major tonight, so he wouldn't interrupt us because I had plans to show my man how much I loved him. After we finished dinner, Jack looked at me and said, Masha fixed me a hell of a meal tonight. I just wished I wasn't so damn tired and could have enjoyed it more. Hell, I was so damn tired I almost fell asleep a couple times. Masha woke me up by feeding me like I was some sort of child. I finally finished, looked at Masha, and said, it's time for me to get the hell out of these clothes and take a shower. I was shocked when Masha offered, Jack, do not worry about taking a shower tonight, as I am going to give you a bath. I began to complain, but Masha, I'm stinky as hell. She silenced me with a kiss on the lips and countered, Jack, you are my fiancé. You had a terrible day and need to totally rest tonight. I am going to give you a nice warm bath, and you will not resist my efforts. Now, take these pills, and I will prepare your bath. She handed me a couple of pills. I looked at them and asked, Masha, what the hell are these, and where the hell did you get them? Masha smiled at me and answered, Jack, they are Vicodin that Tatiana gave to me because she believed you would be sore tonight. If you take them, they will help you sleep tonight and feel better in the morning. I continued to question, what about all the alcohol I had tonight? Masha became a little upset and demanded, Jack, you will be fine. Now take the damn pills. I was shocked that Masha actually swore in English. I am sure that she swore some in Russian. So I popped the pills in my mouth and swallowed them with last of the wine we had with dinner. Masha headed to the bathroom. I heard the water running, and the next thing I remembered was Masha waking me up. She said, Jack, come on, your bath is ready. I opened my eyes and they about popped out of my head. Masha, my Masha, was standing there without a stick of clothing on. I blinked my eyes and asked, I thought I was taking a bath. She smiled at me and answered, I decided we will take a bath together if you don't mind. What the hell was she thinking? If I don't mind taking a bath together. I practically jumped out of the chair, grabbed her hand, and we headed to the bathroom together and had a hell of a bubble bath. Shit, I never knew baths could be so much fun, especially when Masha seemed to drop the soap and I had to hunt for it so often. I hated to cut things short, but the pills and the alcohol started to take effect, and I yawned as I said, Masha, if I don't get to bed soon, I'm going to fall asleep right here. Masha smiled at me and answered, we need to rinse off first. Her suggestion made me happy as hell, because while taking a bath with her was great, I never felt really clean when I took a bath. She pulled the drain plug. We stood up and she started the shower, and the shower was almost as much fun as the bath. She dried me off, took me to bed. I tried to stay awake, but I just couldn't. It was fun taking care of my Jack tonight. I just wished he wasn't so tired, and we could have had one of our normal nights. I tucked him in, went into the main room, and called Tatiana. Flashback, Tatiana and Masha, in Moscow. Oh, what was that noise and where was I? It was my phone. I must have fallen asleep in my bed while I hugged Ben Scrubs. I jumped out of bed, ran to the phone, answered it, and Masha said, Tatiana, I want to thank you for cautioning about making good food for Jack tonight. You were correct, he came home, was a smelly mess and definitely needed a good meal. I yawned and answered, no problem, Masha. Do you have any information on Ben yet? Masha paused for a couple moments then answered, sorry, Tatiana, I haven't had time to task the team to look for him. I will do that immediately after I finish talking with you. Now tell me the truth. How are you feeling? I was more concerned for Tatiana than I had ever been in the past. She had worked for me for many years, and I had never known for her to fall for any man, let alone fall as hard as she had fallen for Ben. I asked her how she was feeling. She took entirely too long to answer, then said, Masha, it is my fault that Ben left, and I am not sure how I will get through this. That was what I was concerned about. Tatiana was foolishly blaming herself for Ben leaving when it was Ben's craziness which was to blame. But while I cooked tonight's dinner, I had devised a plan. I had already executed the first part when I disappointed Tatiana by not doing anything to find Ben. Now, I needed to execute the coup de grace, so I gave Tatiana the initial part of her new assignment. Tatiana, I have arranged for you to take a week away from the hospital. Tatiana yawned again and stated, Masha, why did you do that? I need my work to take my mind off Ben. I had anticipated she would complain, so I next told her, Tatiana, tomorrow you report to the office and your assignment next week is to manage the search for Ben. I could tell my plan worked when Tatiana exclaimed, I could not believe what Masha did for me. Not only did she give me a week off work, she assigned me to head the mission that looked for Ben. I jumped up and down and practically yelled into the phone, Masha, thank you so much, but I'm not going to wait until tomorrow. I'm changing my clothes and going into the office tonight. Flashback, Jennifer, at the military hospital. I went to the nurse's station to report that my back was bleeding, but I couldn't find anyone there, so I went looking for someone. All I found was a man in a room who was worse off than I was. In fact, he was really angry at the nurse. I left his door, walked back toward the nurse's station, and just then the night nurse walked out of the nurse's station and complained, what are you doing out of your room at this time of the night? I didn't like the fact no one was at the nurse's station. I liked the night nurse's frickin' attitude even less, so I became a princess bitcherina, put both my hands on my hips in a defiant position and complained, I don't know where in the frackin' heck you were, because the nurse's station was abandoned. But I have an emergency and need help. I was shocked when the night nurse answered in a sarcastic tone, you do know, don't you? I have other patients to take care of besides your royal princess, but I was doing my job and taking care of them. Now what is your emergency? Oh wait, I bet you broke a nail. I thought to myself I will show her. So I turned around and answered, no, I didn't break a nail, but my back began to bleed. The nasty night nurse came up to me, pulled off the sheet, and yelled, what in the world did you do to yourself? Let's get you back to your room while I go call a doctor. I sat in the bed content that I had shown the nasty night nurse who was boss until the doctor walked in, and then something really bad happened. Flashback, Glenn, at home. I had just gotten home and to sleep when the phone rang. This had better be good. I answered the phone, couldn't believe what I heard, and answered, I will be right there. I got dressed and headed back to the hospital. Flashback, Alexei at home. Mother dropped the rolled-up magazine she had used to beat me and retreated to her room because I told her I would tell the psychologist about what she did. I knew I had won, but I just couldn't resist. I reached down, picked up the rolled magazine, unrolled it, and began to shred it as if I was a dog. Flashback, Mira, Safia, and Ira, in Israel. My sister Ira had traversed the mark. Akam thumped her to the ground as he fled my antagonism. I shot her again with the BB gun of retribution, then fell upon her and began to assail her to assuage my anger. I was shocked when Safia arrived and began to wail upon my corporeal self with a practice katana. She yelled. I was tired of the twins fighting because I wanted to get out of this house and travel to Japan like they promised. So when Mira decided to attack Ira, I ran to the practice room, took a wooden practice katana, ran back to where they were fighting and began to beat, mostly on Mira, but I also hit Ira several times and yelled, "What in hell is wrong with both of you? You are my sisters and shouldn't be fighting like this, especially over something as stupid as role-playing Sherlock Holmes. Both of you should grow up because we need to finish here and get to Japan." I was sure that the twins would beat me for this, but I didn't care. They couldn't tell me, but it was time for us to leave. Mira stopped hitting Ira, and I stopped hitting both of them. Mira stood up, reached down, helped Ira up as I dropped back into a defensive position and waited for the onslaught. Ira surprised me and said, "Mira helped me up after Safia had castigated us." I looked at Mira, then looked at Safia, looked back at Mira, and said, "Mira, please forgive me. Safia is correct in asserting that we are sisters, and I should not have allowed Sherlock Holmes to separate us." Mira smiled at me and replied, "It is good to have my sister return." She then looked at Safia and added, "However, I do feel that our youngest sister requires some instruction in the proper usage of a practice katana." I grinned at Mira and affirmed, "Yes, I do feel a serious lesson is appropriate." Safia turned and ran. However, she was not fast enough, and we were able to quickly overtake her. We were, flashback, Todd, on the island. Things on the island were idyllic until one day when Lynn came to me and signed. I didn't understand her, so I signed in return. "Please speak to me in English since I did not understand what you signed." She smiled, patted my hand, and said, "I signed you that Lou said she is late, and you are going to be a father." I quickly signed, displaying the chaos in my mind. And then Lynn answered, "Todd, you are not dense, so I am sure you know where babies come from." I panicked because the last thing I wanted was for Lou to have a baby on this godforsaken island. I had to find some way to contact the agency. Present, Ben, at the Continental Divide trailhead. As I trot along the Continental Divide trail, I let my mind wander from trying to figure out what Jim is doing by making me a deputy sheriff. I can afford to delay this because I don't have any idea why he did it, and it's not like I won't have some time to figure this out later. To the more pressing and troubling thought about how damn resourceful Destiny is, I know without a doubt she will find me. I slow down, stop running, and recall how damn fast she can run. As I remembered how she escaped from the greenies, I decide she is probably already ahead of me, just waiting for me to show up so she can give me a ration of shit and continue with her annoying as hell statements about being a shaman. I'm still not sure what the hell she is, but I also don't need to make this any easier on her. Since I have already missed the part of the Continental Divide Trail that is in New Mexico, I briefly considered heading back to New Mexico and starting at the beginning, but I'm already here, and from what I understand, the New Mexico part is boring. So I decided it's no big deal if I bypass a bit more of the trail, especially if I make it harder for Destiny to find me. I pull out my maps, find an adjacent trail, take a compass reading, and head off bushwhacking in a new direction. Yeah, let's see the crunchy granola bitch find me now. With the change of direction and the possibility of delaying Destiny finding me, I have the first chance since I've been back to really enjoy the mountains. I couldn't do that at the cabin because I was too busy kicking the greenies' butts. I'm glad to be away from the cabin, other than for one major reason, but I miss the hell out of the trees. I'm above timberline here and miss the smell of the fresh pine-scented mountain air. Instead, I smell the tundra that grows in the higher elevations of the Rocky Mountains, and it's just not the same. But as usual, the sun is out, the skies are clear, and I'm free from all the chains that held me back last week. No, it's more than that. I'm free of the chains that had held me down for years. Now that I've changed directions again, I kick it into overdrive to make it hard as hell for the crunchy granola bitch to find me. Then I find something which slows me up. Present, Destiny, looking for Ben. Ben hasn't shown up yet, and I wonder why. I remind myself that I made a promise to not underestimate him again, so I head back toward the Continental Divide trailhead. It feels good to be in my animal form running on the trail, and it doesn't take long to find the place where the side trail intersects the Continental Divide trail. However, there is still no Ben. This is unusual because by now he should have been here. I decide I need to be more thorough, so I take the trail toward Highway 24 in hopes that I will find him. It's not a very long trail, so in a short period of time I arrive at the parking lot of the trailhead, again, without finding Ben. The whole time I still have the sense that something is watching me. It reminds me of the feeling I had when the drone was watching us. Since my attempt to find Ben failed, I need a new strategy. I sit down, reflect on the problem, and decide that once again Ben must have changed direction and is somewhere besides the Continental Divide trail. I head back in the opposite direction with the hope to find a clue as to where Ben's gone. I begin to scan the footprints on the trail, which isn't bad, because no one else is on the trail today. I reach a spot close to the start of the Continental Divide Trail and notice something has disturbed the tundra beside the trail. I stop, examine it, and scold myself for missing it on the way down here. Ben has left the trail. I begin to slowly and carefully follow his footsteps, which is not easy because he has something soft covering his boots. Then I run into an area where I cannot track Ben because of the soft things over his boots and the special suit he is wearing. Present, Ben, taking a detour. I realize even with the socks over my boots, I am still leaving enough of a trail that I'm sure Destiny can track me. I'm certain if I can see my trail, then she sure as hell can see the trail. Then Lady Luck smiles on me as the path I've taken toward the side trail becomes a boulder field. The whole valley leading up to the ridgeline is covered with boulders that range in size from skull to desk. The insecure footing forces me to slow up, but if I'm careful and don't flip over any of the smaller boulders, Destiny shouldn't be able to track me. The combination of the intense sun and having to pick my way through the boulder field has an added benefit. I've cooled down some. Yeah, I was beginning to sweat in the damn chemical suit and sure as hell didn't want to do much of that, because when night comes and if my clothes are sweaty, I could die from hypothermia. The whistle pigs, marmots, sure don't like my scrambling through their homes and interrupting their sunning sessions. They vocalize their complaints with many eerie-sounding whistles and grunts as they scurry away. The boulder field steepens, which slows me more because I can't afford a mistake now. One wrong step, and present, Jens and the gang at the cabin. Maria has my pants down and is busy pulling cactus thorns out of my rear when she quickly covers me up with the sheet. Then a couple guys run up who I haven't seen for what seems to be forever. I guess I'm really feeling the effects of the cactus because I use a prickly greeting. Matt and Jim. Where the hell have you guys been? Jim answers first. Hell, Jens. After the piece of the carbon fiber handguard was removed from my leg, the docs had to suture the femoral artery in the leg, so I just got out of the hospital a few days ago. We heard about all the shit going on up here. Came here as fast as we could, but it looks like nothing much is going on. Matt adds additional information. I wasn't too screwed up, but I ended up taking care of Jim and some of our other Marines in the hospital, so I couldn't make it back. I smile at the guys and answer, well, it's good to have you back, but you missed all the fun, including me just removing a bomb from inside my chest. Matt asks, was that the first or the second explosion we heard? Inga answers, two huge men who must work for Jennifer, from the way they talk, run up. One of them asks about the explosion, so I inform them. That was the second explosion and created the crater beside the gurney. The other one asks, well, what the hell was the first explosion? I look down, begin to cry, and walk away from the group. It should have been me and not Byron who was killed in the first explosion. I hear Maria answer as I leave. I can't believe how we're wasting time again. Matt and Jim are flapping their lips about the explosions. Inga begins to cry and then leaves, so I decide it's up to me to tell them and get things back on track. I answer, the first explosion was a rigged porta-potty that detonated and killed Byron. Now instead of standing around wasting time, you need to find Linus, because he's putting a team together to find Ben. Matt and Jim exchange looks, and Matt says, the hell with finding Ben. We need to find the scumsucker who blew up Byron. They take off as I look at my princess boss and say, well, since you removed the bomb, how about if we take you to the medical plane and get you taken care of? Jens begins to complain again. Maria, I'm fine and need to help find Ben. Like hell she's going looking for Ben. In her condition, she would just slow them up. I order my princess boss. Jens, listen to me. We were lucky you were able to remove the bomb without killing yourself, but we can't be sure without a total body CAT scan that he didn't plant something else inside of you. Jens gives me a very concerned look and asks, Maria shocks me by saying something that floors me. Something about the scumsucker Mike putting some other device inside of me. So I ask, Maria, what sort of thing are you concerned about? Maria motions to Liz, and they begin to wheel the gurney toward the medical plane as Maria answers, Jens, I have been thinking that if Mike planted a bomb inside you, what's to keep him from also putting some sort of tracking device inside you? Besides, we need to get the doctors to sew up your side again. I smile at Maria and tease, hell, just slap on some petroleum jelly, a bandage and wrap duct tape on it, and I will be fine. I can tell Maria sure as hell doesn't appreciate my joke when I'm tired of my princess boss giving me shit about the hole in her side. Even more tired of stitching it up myself. So after she insults me again, I smack her butt, which still has cactus needles in it, causing Jens to about jump off the gurney, holler like crazy and complain, Maria, what in the hell did you spank my butt for? I laugh and explain, well, if you don't want your side fixed, then how about these cactus needles? You sure as hell don't want to leave any of them in your butt to get infected. Jens continues to complain, hell, just slap some duct tape on my rear, then it will pull all of them out at once instead of the slow frickin' torture you were putting me through. I mime an evil laugh and answer, What fun would that be? Present, Stacy, going after Ben. I can't believe it. That stupid bear has really caused problems for me yet again. I ordered him to get into the truck, but I guess he thought he was human because instead of getting into the back of the truck where I point, he ambles up to the passenger door, hooks his claws into the door, promptly rips it right off the truck, drops it on the ground, and then starts to yowl. The sheriff yells, "What the hell? Your bear just destroyed my truck." He's a menace to society. We have a policy for taking care of bears like that. I see the sheriff fumbling for his gun, and I yell at Wojciech, "Get the hell out of here. He's going to shoot you." This time the stupid bear understands me and takes off running into the trees. With the sheriff distracted trying to draw his gun, I have a short phone conversation with Samantha. The sheriff finally gets his gun out of the holster, but Wojciech is long gone. I smile at him and tease, "Gee, Barney, I guess you must not have to pull your gun very often." He gives me a dirty look and states, "My name's Jim, not Barney." I continue with the insults. "Well, you sure look like Barney Fife trying to get your gun out of your holster. Let me show you how it's done." I quickly pull one of the revolvers Ben gave me out of my holster, spin it twice, and slip it back into the holster. He glares at me and changes the subject. "Don't worry, the damage to my truck will be added to all of your existing charges, and I plan on getting a team together to hunt down that dangerous bear of yours and kill him." He's pissed already, so sensing I had nothing to lose, I continue teasing, "I guess you can't take me in because it wouldn't be safe for me to ride in the cab of your truck without a door." I sure as hell didn't like it when he takes my gun belt, puts the handcuff on me, and orders, "Don't worry about your safety. You're riding in the back of the truck. Now get your butt in there." I begin to try to get into the back of the truck when something even worse happens. Present, Samantha, in search of news. My phone rings. I answer it and figure out that Stacy is being arrested by someone. Then I hear a heck of a noise, like someone is being killed, and yell into my phone, "Stacy, are you okay?" Stacy softly answers, "Sam, it's good to hear from you. I'm not okay, and I might need your help." I question, "Stacy, what's going on?" Stacy tells me all that's happened, so I know she's in serious trouble, and I hope that I can help. My next question is, "Where are you located?" Stacy tells me, "Sam, I'm partway up Highway 24 headed out of town." I reply, "Let me find someone to drive me to where your location." Stacy says, "I will leave my phone on until you arrive because I want someone as a witness." I continue monitoring the call and hear what sounds like a big fight is happening. I hurry and begin talking to the Marines in the camp and finally find one that will take me to Stacy's location. Present, Jack, Masha, and Ivan at the medical plane. The doctor tells us the bad news about Byron being killed in the same damn porta potty that I worked on while Masha begins to cry, shakes her head, and falls to the floor. I fight the hell out of the nurses and say, "I'm fine, but something has happened to my wife." One of them turns around, sees her on the floor, rushes over to her, checks her, and says, "I think she fainted. Is anything wrong with her?" I continue to struggle, trying to get off the damn gurney, and answer, "She's pregnant." The doctor orders, "If you continue to try to get off the gurney, we will restrain you." He continues with orders to the nurses, "Find another gurney for his wife. Take her to another room so I can examine her and verify that she and the baby are okay." I demand, "Who the hell is going to take care of my son Ivan?" The nurse asks, "What son? No one else is here?" I quickly glance around and screw it. They are right. Ivan isn't here. Shit. Then I figure it out. With Masha fainting, he must have become confused and thinking these were more of the bad men, so he took off to hide like I had trained him. I finally swing my feet over the side of the gurney, stand up, and present, Tom, at the cabin. Something strange wakes me up. It's the voice of a young child giggling and saying, "Nice Goggy. Nice Goggy." I open my eyes and find the same scruffy-looking dog which came over to me and put its head on my lap while I fell asleep is leading a small boy toward me. I smile because my initial feelings about the dog were correct. He's a nice-as-hell dog. I don't know of many dogs that would lead a boy by letting the kid hold onto his tail. He brings the boy close to me. The boy sees me and says, "Mr. Man have nice Goggy that bring me here, because I lost." What Mr. Man doing? I can't believe someone was so careless they let this great kid wander off. I smile at the boy and answer, "He isn't my dog, but I'm glad if you're lost that he brought you to me. Tell me where your mother and father are so we can find them." Not only do I want to find them, I want to give them the hell they deserve for letting this cute boy out of their sight. He looks a little scared, starts to cry, and answers, "Bad men take mama and papa." I run away like Papa teach me, so they not take me too. Hell's bells. That scumsucker Mike took this kid's parents and left him here alone. That combined with the anger of him killing Byron gets my blood boiling. If it's the last thing I do in the world, I will find that scumsucker and introduce him to some of the torture techniques I learned when I was a POW. I lie to him, so he stops crying. "Don't cry. I will help you find these bad men that took your parents, and I will make them pay." Thank God he stops crying, then says something I only partially understand. You puff and huff and blow the bad men down. Like Wolf that is also a lady, and Uncle Ben? This is news. The kid knows Ben. But I sure as hell don't know what this wolf lady shit is about. I reply with a question of my own. You know Uncle Ben? What is your name and who are your parents? He smiles at me and answers, yes, I know Uncle Ben good and well. I live with him and Wolf that is also a lady when first bad men take mama and papa. He teach me many tricksy things like socks over boots so we no leave prints in dirt. He only answers part of my question, so I reiterate, what is your name and who are your parents? He giggles and says, Mr. Man, you not know my face? I am Ivan and know you. Shit, it hits me right as someone runs up. Present, Inga, at the cabin. I leave the group of people because I need to be alone so I can cry in peace about losing my good friend Byron. As I wander away from the group, I am surprised when I see Tom and Masha's boy, Ivan, up ahead of me. I run up to Tom and question, what is Ivan doing here with you? Tom looks and points to a mangy-looking dog and says, ask the dog. I was sleeping soundly under the tree when this dog brought Ivan to me. What I don't understand is how Jack and Masha lost track of him. Ivan spins around in circles and interrupts. Mama and Papa not lose my track. New bad men take Papa. Then Mama gets sick and they take her too. So I do what Papa teach me and run away and hide. But hide too well and good and not know where I am. Then Mr. Man's nice goggy bring me to him. I thought all the special forces left. Then it occurs to me. Ivan might be confused, so I further question, where are the new bad men and what happened to your mother? Tom interrupts. Yet when he tells me where they are, I'm going to take care of them for what they did to Ivan and Byron. Ivan begins to climb on the dog. I hope he doesn't catch something, possibly fleas from the filthy animal. I am amazed the dog doesn't bite him, and he answers, they in big airplane that smells bad. Yes, it is as I assumed. Ivan is confused. I look at Tom and say, Tom, I wish there were bad men for both of us to take care of, however. Ivan interrupts. Yes, you two like Uncle Ben and Wolf that is also a lady. You huff and puff and blow new bad men down. I continue. Ivan is confused and thinks the men on the medical plane are the new bad men. Something must have precipitated that feeling. Ivan is now sitting on the back of the incredibly tolerant but nasty-smelling dog and is pulling on the dog's ears similar to a horse's reins. I sit beside the dog, look Ivan in the eyes and ask, Ivan, please tell us what the bad men did to your mama and papa? When he scratches his face, I shudder because it leaves dirt marks from the dirty dog's hair. Then we get his answer. First, new bad men tie Papa to big table of metal with wheels and not let Papa up even when he want to help Mama. When he talks about Masha, my concern grows, as when Ivan touches his hair, I swear, I can see fleas jump from his hand into his fair blonde hair. I ignore it and question, why did Papa want to help your mama? By now, Ivan is as filthy as the dog, but he smiles at me and says, Papa want to help Mama because she falls to floor and does not move. I don't care how dirty or smelly Ivan is. I grab him off the dog and tell Tom, we need to get to the medical plane as soon as possible to see what's wrong with Masha. Ivan giggles and orders, Mr. Man, do not forget your goggy. I wish we could forget the nasty, smelly dog, but he runs alongside the three of us barking as we head toward the medical plane. Present, Alexei, Todd, Mira, and Ira, heading to the cabin. My sisters are once again fighting in the back of the nice car which Todd rented. My concern is the damage their conflict is causing. I maneuver the car to the shoulder of the road and suggest to Todd, we should physically remove them from the vehicle. He nods his head in affirmation. We both open the posterior doors, reach in and extricate my sisters. I have restrained my sister Mira and she complains, Alexei, release me instantly so I might continue to educate my imprudent sister. Then she attempts to forcefully extricate herself from my grasp. However, I was prepared for her actions. I observe that Todd is having an equally difficult time with my sister Ira, and I question while watching her if she truly loves him. It is a calculated risk to restrain the twins, but they are in the process of destroying the back seat of the rental car, and I sure as hell don't want to pay for the damages. Alexei is more familiar with Myra's fighting techniques and is doing a much better job of restraining her. I'm doing my best to restrain Ira, but it's like trying to wrestle a python. I almost have her in a sleeper hold when she amazes me by doing a backflip, and the next thing I know I'm trying to escape from her. She taunts, Todd, you might have greater strength than I, but I am slyer. We all stop fighting after 3 police cruisers pull up. The officers exit weapons free, and one of them orders, get on the ground immediately. I begin to comply when Mira continues her string of ill-advised actions. Present, Yasmin, in juvenile detention. I find the business card the man at the 7-Eleven gave me, and I hope he can help me. Now all I have to do is find a way to make a phone call. The guard comes to take me out for my 30 minutes of free time. I know she carries her mobile phone with her because she spends the entire time I am enjoying the sunshine writing something on it. Once again, she is distracted playing with her phone, so I walk over close to her. As she looks up at me, and I punch her as hard as I can in the face. She falls to the ground, drops the phone, then I pick it up and make a call to the man. He answers, and I tell him, "This is Yasmin, the girl that you wanted to make a video of music for." He answers, "Oh yeah, I remember you. Are you finally ready for me to produce your video?" I quickly inform him of our troubles, and he asks, "Can you describe the place they are holding you?" I do my best, and he says, "Damn, I know that place. It's a real shithole. What can I do for you?" I just finished telling him about Mira having diplomatic passports for us, how she lives at a cabin in Leadville. When the other guards come in, catches me with the phone, then they shoot me with something that has wires coming out of it. Flashback, Ben, leaving Moscow. She pointed to the now disappearing but end of her car and answered, "Took my car, so I thought I would ride with you." I sure as hell didn't like the way Oksana and I were being pushed together, so I said, "You are welcome to ride with me, because I do not know the way to your house." I unlocked my door, climbed in then reached across the seats and unlocked her door. She climbed in, smiled at me, and said, "Thank you, Comrade Captain." I glared at her and curtly replied, "I tolerate that from your great-grandfather and Sergei because of their service to our country. However, you never served, so you need to call me Anatoly Andreev." She grinned even more widely at me and answered, "Excuse me, Comrade Captain, you assumed incorrectly. I served in the military for our country." I figured it was better if I kept my mouth shut instead of putting my foot in it again, so I followed her directions, drove past many places that looked so bad they should have been condemned. The disrepair of the older houses in the small villages in Russia is unfortunately very common. It's a hard life in the smaller villages of Russia, so many people cannot afford to repair their houses. And finally we pulled up in front of nice as hell house. It wasn't big by any means, but it was comfortably sized and looked to have 2 stories. The upper part of the house had the typical intricate woodworking so common in the small villages in Russia. What set the house apart was that instead of being in disrepair, it was clean as hell and painted a nice shade of robin's egg blue. The lower half of the house appeared to be made of masonry and was painted brilliant white, which was so clean and bright it made my eyes water. There were flower gardens everywhere, and I could just see the edge of a huge produce garden behind the house. A short distance away stood a huge barn with a color palette matched the house, and against the side of it was a huge chicken coop. Oksana noticed the way I looked at the house and said, "So, Comrade Captain, was this not what you thought you would find?" I carefully considered my choice of words so as not to offend and answered, "Your house is like something out of a fairy tale. You must work very hard to keep it this way." I secretly wondered where Oksana or Oleg got the money in this small village to keep the house in such good shape, but knew better than to ask. I knew I said the right thing when she smiled at me and answered, "Thank you, Comrade Captain. I work very hard to keep this house like it was when my great-grandmother was alive." I answered without thinking, "Well, when your great-grandmother looks down from heaven, she must be very happy." Oksana displayed a strange look on her face which I didn't understand. Then I noticed one single tear crept down her freshly washed face. She quickly wiped it away and answered, "Thank you, sir, for your kind words about my great-grandmother. However, I am not sure she would be totally happy with all that I do." I assumed she referred to the way she looked last night and the things she offered to do. Oleg came to the door and waved at us as Oksana continued, "Comrade Captain, we need to get inside because I must finish cooking." We exited and as I locked it, Oksana scolded, "Comrade Captain, there is no need to lock your vehicle here." I answered with a chuckle, "I am sorry, but it is a force of habit from living in Moscow." Oksana laughed and answered, "Yes, I still have many of my bad habits from when I lived in Moscow." This piqued my interest, so as we walked toward the house I asked, "You used to live in Moscow? What sort of work did you do?" We walked into the house, but I was distracted and missed her answer because the inside of the house was even better than the exterior. Hell, it was immaculate. There were the nice, typical Oriental-style rugs covering the wood parquet floors, a very dated but obviously cared for. A camelback sofa facing a huge blazing fireplace. 3 matching and very stylish wingback chairs, and a sofa which surrounded a coffee table that amazingly and perfectly matched the parquet floors. Its pattern matched so perfectly, it looked like someone lifted a piece of the parquet out of the floor and made the table out of it. But what dominated the room was the eastern wall. It was covered with so many Orthodox icons it resembled an iconostas. Is a wall of icons and religious paintings, separating the nave from the sanctuary in an Orthodox church. I saw the shoe rack by the door, with slippers on it, and knew what was expected, so I reached down, untied my boots, placed them on the shoe rack, found a pair of slippers that fit, and put them on. Oksana had done the same. Then she nudged me and questioned, "Comrade Captain, are you still alive? You didn't say anything about my former occupation." I was still in shock and sort of mumbled, Excuse me, what did you say? I was distracted by this wonderful room. She stepped in front of me, made sure she had my attention, smiled, and replied, I told you I was a petrochemical engineer for OAO Gazprom. I was impressed and answered, OAO Gazprom is the largest extractor of natural gas in the world and also one of the world's largest companies. It must have been hard to leave that and come back here. Oleg walked out of another room carrying a square wooden box and answered for Oksana. Comrade Captain, do not insult us by acting like a typical officer. There is no comparison to living in Moscow and here. Moscow is dirty and noisy, and here we have peace. Oksana impressed the hell out of me as she continued. After my passed away, couldn't take care of himself or the house. The house was falling into disrepair like many of the houses in this area, so it was my responsibility to come home and take care of him. I looked around the house, remembered the exterior, and questioned how bad it could have looked. I remarked, well, you sure can't tell that there was any problem with the house now. Oleg had set the wooden box on the floor, pulled out a new bottle of vodka, began to wipe the dust off it with his blood-tinged handkerchief, and answered, I am ashamed to admit it, but my darling Oksana is once again covering things in sweets. I was so depressed that I practically destroyed this house. Then Oksana came here and had everything repaired. I whistled, moved my arm in a way to encompass the entire room, and answered, that must have cost many rubles. Oleg smiled and said something that didn't sit quite right. Yes, it did, but my little angel was smart when she worked in Moscow. She saved her money and used it for the repairs. Oksana took the bottle of vodka from Oleg's hands, walked over to a curio cabinet, opened it, took out 3 crystal glasses, set them on the coffee table, opened the bottle, and poured 3 shots. She handed the first glass to me, the second to Oleg, took one for herself, and said, "My makes the best vodka in the world." Oleg held up his crystal shot glass and said, "Here's to the best great-granddaughter in the world." Oksana blushed, and it wasn't from the vodka. Then she informed us, "You men relax by the fire while I finish making dinner." We took the wingback chairs which faced away from the fireplace. I began to sit, but my back felt like shit since the muscles were tight as hell. I finally got them loosened enough that I could sit, and Oleg handed me the bottle of vodka and suggested, "Comrade Captain, please enjoy yourself in our house." I'd already had much more vodka than I was used to drinking, so I handed the bottle back and answered, "Thank you, but any more vodka will impair my performance tomorrow." He laughed, took a big drink, and answered, "Comrade Captain, the night is young." I reminded him, "However, you still need to fix the trigger on the PTRD." He set the bottle on a nice cedar coaster that was on the parquet table and answered, "Yes, sir." Oksana called, "Dinner is ready." Once again, I was shocked by the amount of food on the table. Hell, it could have fed the whole Spetsnaz team. We faced an icon of Jesus on the wall, and Oksana and Oleg said the Lord's Prayer and then gave thanks that I was visiting. Oleg wasn't lying. Oksana was a great cook. The dinner was one of the best I had ever had. Dinner was finished, and Oleg suggested, "Comrade Captain, we need to take you into the barn where my tools are. There I will show you what a trigger should feel like." I suggested, "Perhaps I should first help Oksana clear the table?" Oksana blushed and answered, "Please, Anatoly Andreev, let me do that. I know, cannot wait to work on the PTRD." Oleg and I headed to the front door. Oksana followed and helped Oleg into his Valenki Russian wool felt boots, comfortable and warm as hell. Then she asked, "Comrade Captain, do you need help with your boots?" I shook my head and answered, "No thank you. I am not that old yet." I realized my mistake when Oksana blushed and Oleg began to berate her. Kiasana, diminutive form of Oksana. Do not. I was angry as hell and tired of seeing Oksana treated like shit, so I interrupted, "Oleg, this might be your house, however, if you want me to stay, you need to treat Oksana with more respect." I tossed him the keys to my, and continued, "You can fix the trigger on the PTRD by yourself. After a wonderful meal like that, I am staying here and helping Oksana wash the dishes. She is a wonderful woman and has given up many things to give you a comfortable life, and you need to show her more respect." Oleg was dumbstruck and stared at me. I saw tears fall down Oksana's cheek, and she said, "Please, Comrade Captain, go with my. I do not need help with the dishes." I glared at Oleg. He looked down and confessed, "Comrade Captain, you are correct. I sometimes forget how lucky I am to have my here. I will sit by the fire while you help her with the dishes, then we will work on your PTRD." Now Oksana looked dumbstruck. Oleg tossed my keys back to me, slipped out of his felt boots, back into his slippers, and shuffled off to his seat by the fire. I headed toward the dining room. Oksana figured out what I was doing, then dashed after me. We got into the dining room. Oksana surprised the hell out of me with a huge hug. Because of Tatiana, her hug made me uncomfortable enough that I didn't return it. She pulled away, looked at me, and said, "Sorry, Comrade Captain, if I made you uncomfortable." I just wanted to show you my thanks for talking to my. He does not understand what he does because he is from a different time. I smiled at her and said, Oksana, like I told you when you drove up behind me, I have a girlfriend in Moscow. She smiled and answered, well, she is a very lucky woman. We had a great time doing the dishes, walked into the living room, and Oleg had fallen asleep by the fire. Oksana ran into another room, came back with a blanket and lovingly tucked Oleg in. She looked at me and pleaded, Comrade Captain, please let my sleep because I have not seen him sleep so well for a very long time. You can work on your rifle tomorrow morning. I looked at him and he did look comfortable as hell, so I consented. Okay, Oksana, but we need to wake up early tomorrow. Oksana went to hug me again. I crossed my arms. She got the hint and said, Comrade Captain, I will take you to your room for the night. My initial thoughts were correct. We climbed the stairs to a second floor, which was cooler, a good thing because it was too damn hot for my likes downstairs. She opened the door and walked into a room. I followed as she walked over to the bed, turned down the covers, and said, my room is just down the hallway if you need anything. Do not worry if you hear me moving around during the night, since I will check on many times. Then I remembered that I didn't bring in my kit for so I couldn't brush my teeth or anything else. I went into the hallway, wondered which door Oksana meant until I heard her singing. I went to her door, knocked on it, heard some noises behind it. She came to the door in her robe, and I said, I forgot my necessary kit from and need to get it so I can clean up before I go to sleep. Oksana gave me an exasperated look followed by an even more exasperated sounding sigh, and answered, Comrade Captain, I will take you to your, however we must use the back door as not to wake my. I apologized. Oksana, I am truly sorry about this. If I didn't need my toothbrush, I would just forget about it. She gave me a wicked smile, seductively swung her hips, winked at me, and said, Comrade Captain, you are more than welcome to use anything of mine. I totally understood the offer was once again for anything I wanted and quickly countered, Oksana, I told you before. She interrupted me. Yes, Comrade Captain, I know. You have a girlfriend in Moscow. Follow me, and please walk quietly. I followed her, and I was not so sure that she wasn't accenting the sway of her, but to try to entice me. I quickly muttered to myself and looked away, but not before she turned, caught me looking at her butt, and began to giggle. I berated her. I thought you said we needed to be quiet? She continued giggling and answered, Comrade Captain, are you really sure you have a girlfriend in Moscow? And if you do, how would she feel about where your eyes were? I countered with the answer. Tatiana says she doesn't mind where my eyes go as long as my hands don't follow. Oksana's giggle turned into a full-blown laugh, and she informed me, Tatiana might tell you she doesn't mind you looking at other women, but when she says that she is lying to you. Unfortunately, Oksana's comments hit too close to home and reminded me of the bullshit Tatiana and Masha pulled on me before I left. So I empirically categorized, shit, that's nothing new. All women lie all the time. Oksana surprised the hell out of me as she stopped on the stairs. I wasn't expecting it, so I ran into her, and we both tumbled head over heels down the rest of the stairs. We hit the landing at the bottom, and I complained, what the hell did you stop on the stairs for? Oksana grabbed her leg and began to cry. Comrade Captain, you insulted all women, and so I was going to argue with you. However, I think my leg is broken. Shit of all the MCFs. If her leg was broken, this was going to really screw up my missions because it would be my fault, and I would need to stay here and take care of her and Oleg. I looked at her leg and stated, well, your leg doesn't look broken. She continued crying and holding her leg, and said, please check here where I am holding my leg, Comrade Captain. I replied, move your hands so I can have a look at it. She moved her hands, and I could see a red mark on her leg. I slowly reached for it, touched her leg. She grimaced in pain and said, that really hurts. I palpated around the mark on her leg. She continued to grimace and cry, and I suggested, well, if it is broken, it's not very serious. I'm sure it must be a green stick fracture. She continued with the complaints and offered additional information. Anatoly Andreev, it also hurts further up my leg. Will you please check it? I began to slide my hand up her leg and asked, is this high enough? She answered, no, keep going. My hand was getting uncomfortably high on her leg, so I again asked, how about now? She answered, no, you need to go much higher. I looked up at her face, saw she had a smile on it, and realized I've been had. I snatched my hand back, and now it was my turn to complain, Oksana, that wasn't fair. You lied to me since your leg isn't broken at all. Oksana laughed. Well, Comrade Captain, since you said all women lie all the time, I assumed you wanted me to lie to you. So tell me, did you like what you felt? Because I certainly did. I glared at her and teased, it would have been better if you had shaved your leg sometime in the past week. She stopped laughing, gave me a dirty look, and challenged, Comrade Captain, now who is lying? I'll have you know I shaved my legs and other places just this morning. Would you like to see for yourself? I stood up and announced, hell no. I'm tired of this and need to get my bag. She held up her hand toward me. I ignored it, so she stood up by herself and complained, Anatoly Andreev, you are not even fun. She walked away, and I followed her. We headed through the kitchen. She opened the door, and we walked into a nice mudroom. I shook my head and said, shit. I forgot my boots in the front room. Oksana said, don't worry about it. Just wear my boots for now. I found the biggest pair of boots by the back door, took off my slippers, put on the boots, and we headed outside. It was a clear night, which means it was colder than hell. Oksana stopped, looked up into the sky, and said, you never see this many stars in Moscow. There was no way I was waiting around to look at all the stars since it was too damn cold and my coat was in my bedroom. I changed the subject. I'm going to get my bag. I'll be right back. I ran around the house, stopped at the back of unlocked the back door, grabbed my necessary bag, and ran back around the house. Oksana was still looking up into the sky and remarked, look, there is a satellite. I looked up to see the tiny speck moving across the sky and remarked, that's fine. Now I'm heading back inside because I'm freezing. Oksana offered with a laugh, Comrade Captain, I know a good way to warm you up. I didn't even answer her. I headed back inside, kicked off Oleg's boots, put on my slippers, and dashed up the stairs to my room. Once inside, I opened my bag, took out the new toothbrush and new tube of toothpaste Yuri bought me, and headed back into the hallway to find the bathroom. I know the one door led to Oksana's room, so the other must be the bathroom. I approached the door, wiggled the knob. It was locked, and I heard, sorry, Comrade Captain, I needed the bathroom. Oksana was really getting on my nerves, so I went back to my room, found the mouthwash in my necessary bag, opened it up, took a big swig, rinsed the hell out of my mouth and swallowed it. I slipped out of my uniform, folded it nicely, and set it on a chair. I climbed into the bed and screw me. I sunk about a foot into the bed because it was a nice as hell feather bed. I pulled up the sheets and blankets, was almost asleep when I heard a noise. I opened my eyes and, flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. I still could not believe it. Masha gave me a week of vacation from my normal nursing duties and also put me in charge of the team tasked to find Ben. I was not going to waste a moment of this gift, so I started the coffee maker in my kitchen, dashed back into my bedroom, stripped off my clothes and threw them in the corner, and ran into the bathroom for a quick shower. I stepped out of the shower, toweled myself dry, ran back into the kitchen, grabbed a cup of coffee, and took it with me into the bedroom as I began to change into my civilian clothes. Flashback, Masha and Jack, at Masha's flat. The alarm went off at some ungodly hour, and Masha asked, Jack, my love, it is early. What time is it? I shut off the alarm, which I remembered to set last night, and answered, Masha, it's 0400 and I have to get ready for training with the Spetsnaz team today. I gingerly extricated myself from the arms and legs of Masha, trying not to bother her too much. My plan didn't work because when I was finally free from the female entanglement, she sat up in bed and announced, Jack, why didn't you tell me you needed to leave so early? I need to get up and make your breakfast. She jumped out of bed, flipped on the light, threw on a robe, and headed into the kitchen. It took me a bit longer to get out of bed because I was sore and stiff as hell. I made it out of bed, then Masha walked back in the room, and thank God. I knew that my Jack was going to need some help today, so I ran into the kitchen, made some very strong instant coffee, added an extra ingredient of a mild analgesic, and took it to Jack. He was finally out of the bed by the time I arrived. I held out the coffee and offered, I have a cup of coffee for you, but it will cost you. My Jack grinned at me and said, whatever the damn price is, I will gladly pay it. I smiled at him and offered, I will trade this cup of coffee for one of your great kisses. I walked close to him. He grabbed me, gave me a great kiss which took my breath away. Then he pulled away and questioned, was that good enough to get my coffee? I grinned at Jack, handed him the cup of coffee, and said, it most certainly was. I am sorry it is instant coffee this morning. Tomorrow I will wake up early enough to make you some real coffee. Now get dressed and come into the dining room for breakfast. I ran back into the kitchen so his breakfast wouldn't burn. I couldn't believe Masha woke up to fix me breakfast and didn't complain about it. Hell, she even seemed happy about it. I couldn't remember any woman ever doing that for me. I gulped down the cup of coffee, it was damn good for instant coffee, and began to dress in a clean Spetsnaz uniform. By the time I got into my uniform, Masha called me to come and eat. I was feeling pretty damn good and whistled as I walked into the dining room. I reached the table and Masha gave me a very stern look and scolded, Jack, do not do that. I was confused, so I questioned, don't do it, honey. Masha took a deep breath, made the sign of the cross, and said, Jack, do not whistle. It is bad luck to whistle and will cause you to lose money. I apologized. Sorry, Masha, I didn't know that and I will never do it again. She smiled at me and said, sit down, Jack, and I will serve your breakfast. As I sat in the chair, I marveled at how much better I felt. Hell, perhaps I was in better shape than I thought. Masha came to the table with a plate piled high with scrambled eggs with cheese in them, and encircled by a bunch of little hot dogs which she had cut and arranged in the shape of a heart. She set a second plate down with 4 pieces of toast slathered in jelly. I grinned and said, "Wow, Masha, this looks great. I love how you arranged the hot dogs in the shape of a heart." Then I added, "Aren't you going to eat with me?" She sat across from me, sipped on a cup of tea, and answered, "No, Jack. It's too early for me to eat breakfast. After you leave, I plan on going back to sleep for a few hours. I will have something to eat before I go to work this morning." I looked at my watch and said, "Damn, I have to hurry or I will be late." I began shoveling the food in my mouth. It was great, and I wished I could have taken the time to enjoy it. I finished the last piece of toast after I used my knife to spread the jelly around better. Then I licked the knife and Masha gasped and scolded, "Jack, do not ever lick your knife again." I gave her a puzzled look and questioned, "Why not, Masha? I do it all the time at home." She gave me a stern look and told me, "Jack, only savages lick their knives, and you are not a savage, so please never do that again." I smiled at Masha and realized that we had some very large cultural differences, and also that Russians were superstitious as hell. I wish like hell Ben was here, because he could have clued me in on all these differences. There was a loud knock on the door, and Yuri announced, "Jack, wake up. We are here for you." I yelled back, "Let me brush my teeth, and I will be right out." I stood up. Masha came over to give me a kiss, and I said, "Not until I brush my teeth." Masha answered, "Jack, I do not care," and gave me a toe-curling kiss. Once she was done, I ran into the bathroom, brushed my teeth, ran back out to the dining room, and Masha had cleaned the table already. I felt bad and said, "Masha, tomorrow I promise I will help more at breakfast." She scolded me, "Jack, do not be silly. It is my job. Now have a good day, and do not worry, I will have a wonderful dinner ready for you tonight." I gave her another big kiss, headed out the door, and was amazed by how wonderful Masha was. Flashback, Major M, at his hotel. There was a knock on the door. I woke up, looked at my watch, and son of a bitch. It was 0930, and I was hours late to meet with the sergeants today. Victoria was awake already and must have even taken a shower because she was dressed in the same clothing from yesterday and looked like a supermodel. I asked, "Why the hell didn't you wake me up?" She smiled at me and answered, "Because you told me how you needed your sleep last night. So I took care of my duties and ordered us breakfast, which has just arrived." I jumped out of bed as the hotel staff rolled a cart into the room. I dodged the cart, headed toward the bathroom, and complained, "Hell, I don't know if I have time for breakfast." I then closed the bathroom door behind me. Victoria called out through the closed bathroom door, "Major, we must keep your energy levels up for later duties." I glanced at myself in the mirror. Hell's bells, I wasn't sure I'd be up for anything later. I felt completely drained, more exhausted than I had been in a long time. Even my usual morning energy was nowhere to be found. Victoria opened the bathroom door and ordered, "My Major, your food is getting cold. Now be a good Major and come eat your breakfast." As I started to protest, Victoria strode over, silencing me with a quick kiss. Then, with a firm grip on my wrist, she led me out of the bathroom. A well-prepared breakfast awaited on the small table in the room. I sighed, "Victoria." She cut me off with another kiss, playfully tugged my arm, and said, "My Major, do not force me to get physical with you." Seeing the determination in her eyes, I decided that sitting down was the better choice. She had even placed a towel on the chair, always thinking ahead. To my surprise, she settled onto my lap. I opened my mouth to object, but she popped a strawberry into it and commanded, "Eat up, Major. We're just getting started." Every time I tried to speak, she stuffed another bite of food into my mouth. Eventually, I gave up protesting and simply enjoyed the experience of being taken care of by Victoria. By the time breakfast was finished, I was completely full. Victoria grinned at me, adjusting her position slightly. "Why, my Major," she said with a mischievous smile. "I do believe it's time for dessert." I started to protest, but before I knew it, time had slipped away. When I finally checked my watch, it was already noon. I jumped up, startling Victoria. "My Major, why are you leaving me?" she asked. I reassured her. "Victoria, I'm not leaving you. We're both going to the hospital to find out what's going on with my sergeants." I ran into the bathroom to take care of some necessary duties, turned the water on in the shower, jumped in, just started washing my hair when I was joined by Victoria. We spent what had to be hours in the shower, and we never ran out of hot water. However, I finally did run out of steam. Victoria pouted and said, "My Major, I believe I have broken your play toy." I didn't dare tell her I was happy about not being able to get it up. Instead, I said, "Well, let's go to the hospital so I can find out about the sergeants, and we will see if my toy is better later on tonight." She continued trying to get a rise out of him while we toweled off, and I was surprised when he didn't respond. It wasn't like him. We finally got dressed. I looked at my watch and noticed it was 3:30. We headed downstairs. Victoria flagged down a cab. We jumped in, She told him to take us to the hospital. He started off, and we promptly ran into another traffic jam. It was late as hell when we arrived to the hospital, but when we walked inside, I wished we were still stuck in the traffic jam. Flashback, Glenn, heading back to the hospital. I couldn't believe it. After the phone call I had received from the hospital, I knew if there was ever a MCF, this had to be one. I figured since I was awake and had to go back to the hospital, I would make a call to the JA, because if what the nurse who called me said, I just might need him. He answered his phone. I told him what I was told, and he answered, "Sir, having met your daughter, that doesn't sound correct to me. I will meet you at the hospital, and together we will figure this out." That made me feel better because the nurse made it sound like a legal situation. Flashback, Jennifer, at the military hospital. Could anything else go wrong in this frickin' hospital? After I gave the crabby night nurse a piece of my mind, she took me back to my room and called the doctor without doing anything for my back or even giving me anything for pain. I continued rubbing my back against the bed because it itched like crazy, which of course made it bleed more. My bed was a bloody mess when the doctor walked into my room. He noticed the bed and immediately accused me. "Ms. Donaldson, why did you injure yourself?" I blinked my eyes a couple of times because I couldn't believe what he said, and I explained, "Doctor, first I was in pain, and my nurse told me it wasn't time yet for my medicine," which I am sure was incorrect. Then my back began to itch like crazy, so I rubbed it against the bed, and I guess I accidentally did something to it. But my back still hurts and still itches, and my nurse still won't give me any pain medicine, and I know it's way past time for it. The doctor looked at my chart, looked at me several times, then he shocked me when he said, "Ms. Donaldson, it's evident to me that you are addicted to your pain medicine and purposefully injured yourself in hopes that your excellent nurse would relent and give you more pain medication than you were prescribed. You had been given your injection precisely when you were supposed to have it." I interrupted. Excuse the heck out of me, but I'd sure in the frackin' heck not call my night nurse excellent since she wasn't even in the nurse's station when I went looking for her. And I know for a fact I did not receive my injection, and I'm sure as heck not addicted to my morphine. The doctor glared at me and stated, "Ms. Donaldson, those are serious allegations which are totally unfounded and of which you have no proof. I know your night nurse very well and have worked with her many years. Yes, I fear your judgment has been clouded by your addiction. Unfortunately, there's only one thing to do in this case." I wasn't getting anywhere trying to be nice, so I became the prima bitcherina and said, "Doctor, do you have a serious case of cranial-rectal inversion? My father is General Donaldson, and he will." The doctor interrupted me and said, "Yes, I know who he is, and he will have to visit you in the psychiatric ward because you have become a danger to yourself and the other patients." I tried to argue with him, but two big men came into the room, put me into a straitjacket, and I was taken to a different floor and room. Flashback, Alexei, the next day at the laboratory. Father walked into my room the next morning, noticed the shredded magazine, and questioned, "Alexei, what is that on the floor?" Things were working exactly as I had planned, so I dropped my dog ruse and acted normally. I answered, "Father, I am not sure what that is. It must have happened during the night. I know, perhaps Chow Mein came into my room and destroyed the magazine." Father gave me a strange look and questioned, "Alexei, do you not feel like you are a dog?" I gave Father my best, "I don't believe you asked that" look and answered, "Father, why in the world would you ask me that question?" He continued with the unusual look and answered, "Alexei, do you not remember last night when you acted like a dog?" I faked a laugh and said, "Father, I love it when you tease me. I am hungry. Did you make breakfast yet?" He shook his head and told me, "Not yet, Alexei. Give me 15 minutes and it will be ready." Flashback, Safia, Mira, and Ira, in Israel. I had bruises in places I didn't even know I had places. After antagonizing my sisters with the practice katana, I tried to escape, but unfortunately for me, I ran back into the training room. That was a mistake I would never make again. Mira and Ira grabbed practice katanas and proceeded to teach me a lesson, which really was an exercise for how many times they could strike me. I lost count after 100. The good news was they were finally finished with the Sherlock Holmes role-playing, and for that the whole house thanked me, especially Akam. I was shocked at how nice he had become toward me and the young girls. With Sherlock Holmes retired, my sisters were busy planning a final assault on the Mossad headquarters and our exfiltration to Japan. I wandered into the planning room and heard them discussing. I informed my sister Ira, the Mossad no longer occupies their previous headquarters because it is uninhabitable." Ira looked at me and responded, "I do not care. I still feel that we should decimate the building where the heinous act was perniciously perpetrated." Safia had entered the room and questioned, "Ira, to what heinous act do you refer?" My sister Ira glared at her and stated, "Safia, you do not need to know the details of the heinous act. What you need to do is perform your assigned duty." Safia continued with her ill-advised questioning, "Ira, that is what I am questioning. Why it is my duty to destroy the old Mossad building. Ira appropriated a ruler from the table, swung it through the air, and questioned. Safia had irked me with her questions about why I wanted her to destroy the old Mossad building, and she obviously required proper motivation. I acquired the ruler from the table and threatened, "Perhaps you need a more physical motivation?" Fear crossed Safia's face as she conceded, "No, Ira. If you want me to destroy the old and useless Mossad building, then that is what I will do." With Safia's annoyance remedied, we turned back to composing our attack plan. Flashback, Todd, on the island. I just had the bombshell dropped on me that I was going to be the father of Lou's child, so I signed Lynn. "We need to leave and take Lou someplace safe to have our baby." Lynn chuckled and replied, "Todd, I do not think that you will be able to persuade Lou to leave this island." I sign a question. "Lynn, you need to help me. Tell Lou she must leave the island to have our baby." Lynn laughs and answers, "Todd, you of all people should know that you can't tell Lou what to do. You know as well as I that she only feels safe on this island." Lynn was correct and made me realize that I could never persuade Lou to leave the island. I needed another plan. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.